Hi, welcome back, everyone. This is your friend Crispy Fanfics, bringing you another fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the first part of What If Uzumaki clan took Naruto a week before his graduation. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this. Now, let's get into the fanfic. Spring sunlight spilled through the tall windows of the Hokage's office, casting long golden bars across the worn floorboards. Hiruzen Sarutobi's weathered hands moved methodically through the day's paperwork, the scratch of his pen against parchment the only sound in the room. The peaceful monotony shattered as the door burst open. Lord Third! A Chunin messenger skidded to a halt, chest heaving. Travelers approaching the eastern gate. 3 of them. The third Hokage set down his brush, eyes narrowing. And this warrants interrupting me because... Sir, they all have red hair. Bright red. Like blood under sunlight. The messenger's voice dropped. And they're asking about the Uzumaki boy. Hiruzen's pipe nearly slipped from his fingers. He rose from his chair in one fluid motion belying his age, the mantle of authority settling over him like a physical weight. Alert the ANBU. Quietly. His voice remained steady, but his mind raced. I'll greet them personally. Concentrate, Naruto. You're dispersing too much chakra again. Iruka's voice echoed across the academy training yard as a puff of smoke revealed Naruto's failed transformation jutsu, his third attempt that afternoon. Where there should have been a perfect copy of Iruka-sensei stood instead a bizarrely proportioned caricature, blue eyes too large, nose practically non-existent. Snickers rippled through the gathered students. Kiba's laugh barked the loudest. Man, you're never gonna pass at this rate. Kiba howled, slapping his knee. The transformation dispelled with another puff as Naruto's face flushed crimson. Shut up, dog breath. I'm just warming up. Mizuki-sensei stepped forward, his smile pleasant but eyes cold as winter rain. Perhaps Naruto needs a demonstration from someone with actual talent. His gaze slid towards Sasuke, standing aloof at the edge of the group. Uchiha, show the class a proper transformation. Sasuke stepped forward without a word, formed the hand sign with casual precision, and transformed into a flawless copy of Iruka. The girls sighed admiringly. Perfect control, Mizuki noted, shooting Naruto a sidelong glance. Unlike some students who waste their chakra through sheer carelessness. Naruto's fists clenched at his sides, nails digging half-moons into his palms. I've got tons of chakra. Way more than anyone here. Having chakra isn't the same as knowing how to use it, Mizuki replied, voice honey-sweet with condescension. Iruka stepped between them. That's enough practice for today. Remember, the graduation exam is next week. I suggest everyone review the basics. As the students dispersed, Iruka placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder, holding him back. Naruto, wait. The boy shrugged off the touch, blue eyes fierce with unshed tears. I know. I need to practice more. Actually, Iruka's voice softened. I was going to suggest we get some ramen. My treat. We can talk about your chakra control. The transformation in Naruto was instant, sunshine breaking through storm clouds. For real? Ichiraku's? Iruka nodded, hiding his concern behind a smile. 1 week until graduation, and Naruto was nowhere near ready. The eastern gate of Konoha stood open to the afternoon sun, casting long shadows of the 3 figures who approached with unhurried confidence. Their most striking feature caught the light first, hair in shades of crimson, copper, and deep garnet, moving like liquid fire with each step. The eldest, a man whose stern face was lined with years but whose back remained straight as a blade, led their procession. Steel gray threaded through his red hair, pulled back in a traditional topknot. His eyes, sharp as kunai, took in every detail of the village gate and the ninja station there. Flanking him were 2 younger companions. To his right walked a woman in her 30s, her hair the color of fresh blood falling in a thick braid to her waist. A battle-worn tanto hung at her hip, and the way she moved spoke of lethal grace held carefully in check. To his left strode a young man barely out of his teens, his auburn hair cropped short except for two long forelocks framing a face alight with barely contained curiosity. Intricate seal-marked bands wrapped his forearms. The gate guard stiffened as the trio approached. "State your business in Konoha," demanded the senior Chunin, hand casually drifting toward his weapons pouch. The elder stepped forward. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of ancient mountains. "I am Kazashi Uzumaki. These are my kinsmen, Akane and Takeo of the Uzumaki clan. We seek audience with your Hokage on a matter of family." The Chunin's eyes widened, hand freezing mid-motion. "Uzumaki? But we're supposed to be dead?" A sharp smile creased Kazashi's weathered face. "Reports of our extinction were premature." Before the guard could respond, a new voice cut through the tension. "I will handle this." The third Hokage appeared, pipe clutched between his teeth, hands clasped behind his back. His face revealed nothing, but his eyes studied the visitors with the intensity of a falcon. Kazashi inclined his head, exactly the correct depth to acknowledge a leader without submitting to one. "Lord Hokage. It has been many years. 22 if memory serves." Hiruzen's gaze swept over the trio. "The last Uzumaki I met with was Kushina, before the fox attacked." A heavy silence fell, thick with unspoken history. Akane stepped forward, her movements fluid and contained. From a sealed scroll, she produced ancient parchments marked with intricate seals. "Our credentials, Lord Hokage. Blood seals that only true Uzumaki can activate. Records of our lineage. Proof of our identity." Hiruzen accepted the scrolls, examining them with practiced eyes. "These appear authentic, but verification will be necessary. I'm sure you understand." "Of course." Kazashi nodded. "We anticipated as much." The Hokage signaled to his ANBU guards. "Escort our guests to the diplomatic quarters. Post a security detail." He turned back to Kazashi, his expression neutral but eyes sharp. "Once these are verified, we can discuss why 3 members of a supposedly extinct clan have suddenly appeared at my gates." Takeo, the youngest, spoke for the first time, his voice surprisingly deep. "We're here about the boy, Lord Hokage." His eyes, gray-blue like a stormy sea, met the Hokage's unflinchingly. "We're here for Naruto Uzumaki." The pipe in Hiruzen's mouth twitched nearly imperceptibly. "Then," he said slowly, "we have much to discuss indeed." 4 hours later, in a sealed room beneath the Hokage Tower, chakra signatures and blood seals confirmed what Hiruzen had feared and hoped in equal measure. Standing before him were genuine survivors of the Uzumaki clan. "Your verification methods are thorough," Kazashi commented, rolling down his sleeve after the final blood test. "Kushina taught you well." The Hokage's eyes darkened at the name. "She was precious to this village. And yet her son grows up alone," Akane said, her voice like steel wrapped in silk. "An Uzumaki child, heir to a proud lineage, lives in isolation without knowledge of his heritage." Hiruzen sighed, suddenly looking every one of his 70 years. "You cannot understand the complexities." "We understand politics, Lord Hokage," Kazashi interrupted. "We understand enemies and threats. What we cannot understand is why the son of Kushina Uzumaki was denied his birthright, his family." "How did you find out about him?" Hiruzen asked, deflecting. Takeo smiled, tapping a finger against one of the seals on his arm. "Uzumaki blood calls to Uzumaki blood. Our sealing techniques have evolved in our exile. Once we knew to look for him." He shrugged. "Finding him was inevitable." "And what exactly do you want with Naruto?" The Hokage's voice hardened. Kazashi leaned forward, red hair catching the lamplight like dying flames. "We want what any family wants for their child. We want to give him a home. We want to teach him who he truly is. Naruto is a citizen of Konoha. A ninja academy student days away from graduation. He is Uzumaki," Akane said simply. "Before anything else." Hiruzen's fingers steepled before his face. "And if I refuse your claim?" "Then," Kazashi said, his voice dropping dangerously low, We would be forced to remind Konoha of the ancient treaties between our clans. Treaties signed in blood. His eyes narrowed. Treaties that your village has already broken once by abandoning our kinsmen. The Hokage was silent for a long moment, smoke curling from his pipe in lazy spirals. Finally, he spoke. Where have you been all these years? Why come for him now? Scattered. Surviving. Rebuilding in secret, Kazashi answered. As for why now? His expression softened almost imperceptibly. We only recently confirmed he survived. And he approaches his graduation, a turning point in any young ninja's life. You've been watching him. Akane nodded. For 3 days. Long enough to see how he lives. How he's treated. Her voice held carefully controlled anger. Long enough to know he deserves better. The Hokage closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, they held a weary resignation. I will arrange a meeting. Tomorrow. But understand this, the final decision will be Naruto's. And there are complications you don't yet know about. The Nine Tails, Takeo said bluntly. All 3 Uzumaki touch seals embroidered into their clothing simultaneously, a gesture so synchronized it appeared rehearsed. We know what he carries. We can feel it. Hiruzen's eyes widened slightly. We are seal masters, Lord Hokage. Kazashi reminded him with a hint of pride. Who better to understand what was done to him? Who better to help him master what runs through his veins? Naruto trudged up the stairs to his apartment, stomach full of Ichiraku ramen but spirit heavy with the day's failures. The setting sun cast long shadows across the village, painting everything in shades of orange and gold, his favorite colors, not that anyone ever noticed. 1 week, he muttered to himself, fishing for his key. 1 week to get this stupid jutsu right. The door creaked open to reveal his empty apartment. Cups of instant ramen littered the small table, and his unmade bed called to him from the corner. Naruto kicked off his sandals, sending them skittering across the worn floorboards. I'll show them tomorrow, he declared to the silent room, pumping his fist with forced enthusiasm. Believe it! The echo of his voice was swallowed by the emptiness. Outside his window, unnoticed, the last rays of sun caught a flash of red hair as a figure leapt silently to a neighboring rooftop. Akane Uzumaki paused for one last look at the apartment where her kinsman lived alone. Soon, she whispered, a promise carried away by the evening breeze. Inside, Naruto fell asleep with his clothes still on, unaware that by this time tomorrow, everything he knew about himself would change forever. Chapter 2, Hidden Legacy. Dawn broke over Konoha in shades of amber and gold, painting the Hokage's office in warm light that belied the chill conversation within. The 3 Uzumaki sat across from Hiruzen, their crimson hair catching fire in the morning sun, faces set in expressions ranging from Kazashi's stoic patience to Takeo's barely contained eagerness. Minato Namikaze was the 4th Hokage, Hiruzen began, the words hanging heavy in the air. Kushina Uzumaki was his wife. Akane's breath caught. Then Naruto is their son. The admission seemed to age Hiruzen further, the weight of 12 years of secrets, suddenly visible in the slump of his shoulders. Born the night of the Nine-Tails attack. The night they both died. Kazashi's eyes narrowed to flints of steel. And you kept this from him? From the world? Minato made powerful enemies in the Third Shinobi War. Hiruzen's fingers drummed once against his desk. IWA still has a standing kill order for anyone bearing the name Namikaze. So you stripped him of both names, Takeo observed, the seal patterns on his arms pulsing faintly with his agitation. Denied him both legacies. I protected him the only way I could. The defensive edge in Hiruzen's voice couldn't mask the doubt beneath it. Akane leaned forward, her voice sharp as a kunai's edge. Protected him? We've seen how the village treats him. Isolation isn't protection, it's punishment. You weren't here. Hiruzen snapped, a rare crack in his composed facade. You didn't see the village after the attack. The fear. The hatred seeking a target. We know something about being targets, Kazashi said, eyes distant with memory. The sky burned crimson above Uzushio-gakure, matching the hair of its fleeing citizens. 7-year-old Kazashi stumbled over debris as his mother dragged him toward the hidden docks, the village's legendary ceiling barriers shattering overhead like glass. "Run!" The command tore from his mother's throat as a squad of enemy ninja materialized before them. She shoved him behind her, hands already forming seals. "Remember the contingency!" The ocean roared, answering her call as a massive wave surged over the dock, sweeping Kazashi and 3 other children onto a waiting boat. The last he saw of his mother was her back, proud and straight as chains of chakra erupted from her body to bind the approaching attackers. The boat rocked violently as explosive tags detonated across the harbor. Beside him, an older girl, Kaoru, his cousin, pulled him close, her voice steady despite the tears streaming down her face. "We survive," she whispered fiercely. "We scatter. We remember. That is our duty now. Uzushio-gakure fell because our enemies feared our sealing arts." Kazashi's voice pulled them back to the present, each word carved from grief hardened over decades. "We know what it means to be hunted to extinction. Which is why we weren't content to remain scattered," Akane added, flipping open a small journal filled with intricate seal patterns and maps. "For 20 years, we've been finding each other. Rebuilding. A network of safe houses across the 5 nations. Small enclaves in remote regions beyond national borders." Takeo's fingers traced patterns on the table's surface, leaving faint lines of chakra that faded like ghosts. "We've adapted our sealing techniques to detect others with Uzumaki blood. To recognize the resonance of our chakra even across great distances. That's how we found him," Akane said, snapping the journal shut. "A child with Uzumaki chakra so bright it's like a beacon." Hiruzen's brow furrowed. "How many of you remain?" 47 confirmed, Kazashi answered. "Perhaps twice that still scattered, unaware they're not alone." The Hokage exhaled slowly, smoke trailing from his pipe in contemplative wisps. "A far cry from the thousands who once populated your village. But enough to rebuild," Takeo insisted, youth and optimism breaking through his formal demeanor. "Enough to reclaim what was lost. Starting with Naruto," Akane finished, her tone brooking no argument. Hiruzen's eyes hardened. "The boy is a citizen of Konoha, with responsibilities. He's a 12-year-old child," Akane cut in, her voice rising. "A child who's been lied to about everything, his parents, his heritage, even the burden he carries. The 9 tails complicates matters," Hiruzen countered. Kazashi made a dismissive gesture. "The 9 tails is precisely why he should be with his clan. Uzumaki have been Jinchuriki for generations. Our chakra, our sealing techniques, they were created to contain tailed beasts. His mother was the previous vessel," Takeo added, "and her great-aunt before her. This is our legacy as much as his birthright." The silence stretched between them, taut as a wire. Sunlight crept across the floor as minutes passed, the village awakening beyond the windows, unaware of the history being rewritten within these walls. Finally, Hiruzen spoke, each word measured. "Even if I were inclined to grant your request, and I've made no such decision, there are political considerations. The Jinchuriki is a military asset. The council would never." Kazashi slammed his palm on the desk, the impact leaving a perfect circle of sealing script that glowed briefly before fading into the wood. "Do not speak of him as a weapon to be hoarded, Sarutobi." The use of his surname, not his title, hung like a challenge in the air. "I've spent my life in politics," Hiruzen replied, unflinching. "I cannot ignore reality to spare feelings, yours or his." "Then perhaps you should consider other realities," Kazashi said, reaching into his robe to withdraw an ancient scroll bound with red and white cords. "Such as the treaty of founding between Konoha and Uzushio-gakure." The scroll landed between them with the weight of history. "Section 12, Akane said, her voice cold and precise. "Concerning the children of mixed heritage. Any child born of Uzumaki blood has the right to claim their heritage and receive training in the clan arts, regardless of their place of residence or other obligations. This treaty predates the formation of the Shinobi Alliance, Hiruzen argued. Modern protocols were built upon these foundations, Kazashi finished for him. This treaty has never been dissolved or superseded. It stands. And by its provisions, we have the right to claim Naruto as our blood kin. The right to claim, yes. Not the right to remove him from Konoha. We're not asking to take him away permanently. Takeo interjected, his tone conciliatory where his elders had been confrontational. Not unless that's what he wants. Hiruzen's eyebrows rose. Then what exactly are you proposing? A week, Akane said. 1 week before his graduation. Let him stay with us, learn about his heritage, make an informed choice about his future. He's 12, Hiruzen protested. He's old enough to die for this village, Kazashi countered sharply. Old enough to learn who he truly is. Hiruzen rose, moving to the window to gaze out at the village, at the stone faces of the Hokages watching over it, Minato's visage among them. And if he chooses to stay with you? He asked, not turning around. Then we negotiate terms that honor both his heritage and Konoha's interests, Kazashi answered. We're not naive, Sarutobi. We understand the political realities of a Jinchuriki. But we will not allow them to overshadow his humanity. Hiruzen turned back, studying each Uzumaki face in turn, measuring their resolve. Very well, he said finally. I will summon him. Today. You may tell him of his mother. He held up a hand as Akane started to protest. But not his father. Not yet. That secret protects him from enemies abroad. Until he can protect himself, it remains hidden. Kazashi's jaw tightened, but he nodded once. Acceptable. For now. Naruto's morning had started like any other, instant ramen, a quick check of his meager supplies, and a dash through Konoha's streets toward the academy. The familiar cold shoulders from villagers, the sidelong glances, the parents pulling their children closer as he passed, he'd learned to ignore it all with a plastered-on grin that never quite reached his eyes. Watch it, demon brat! A shopkeeper's harsh voice followed him as he narrowly avoided a collision. Sorry, old man! Naruto called back without slowing, his tone deliberately cheerful. Never let them see it bothers you. Never show weakness. He skidded around a corner, nearly bowling over a figure in green spandex doing vertical push-ups on one finger. Youthful morning, Naruto! Gai-sensei bellowed, not missing a beat in his exercise. 50 more laps around the village will invigorate your springtime spirit. Maybe later. Naruto shouted back, already sprinting away. Weird guy, but at least he was always nice. Naruto was halfway up the academy steps when a masked ANBU materialized beside him, startling a yelp from his throat. Naruto Uzumaki, the ANBU said, voice muffled behind the cat-like mask. The Hokage requires your presence immediately. Naruto's stomach dropped. He mentally catalogued his recent pranks. Nothing major in the last few days, just some minor graffiti on the water tower. Nothing that would warrant an ANBU escort. Am I in trouble? He asked, trying to sound casual but failing to hide the nervous edge in his voice. The ANBU's mask revealed nothing. The Hokage will explain. Before Naruto could protest, the ANBU's hand descended on his shoulder, and the world dissolved in a swirl of leaves. They rematerialized outside the Hokage's office, Naruto stumbling slightly as his feet found solid ground again. The ANBU's hand steadied him briefly before withdrawing. Whoa! Naruto breathed, adrenaline making his heart race. That was awesome! Can you teach me that? The Hokage is waiting, the ANBU replied, already melting backward into the shadows. Naruto straightened his goggles, trying to flatten his spiky hair in a futile attempt to look presentable. Whatever this was about, facing the old man looking like he just rolled out of bed wouldn't help his case. He raised his hand to knock, but the Hokage's voice called from within. Enter Naruto. Pushing the door open, Naruto stepped into a room that felt suddenly, inexplicably different from the countless times he'd been here before. The air thrummed with tension, thick enough to taste. Hey, old man, whatever it was, I didn't The words died in Naruto's throat as he registered the three strangers sitting across from the Hokage's desk. Red hair, all of them, in shades he'd never seen before, like autumn leaves and sunset and fresh blood. Naruto froze, blue eyes widening as they turned to look at him. Something strange and electric shot through him, a recognition that made no sense, a familiarity with faces he'd never seen. Naruto! The Hokage's voice seemed to come from very far away. These people have come a long way to meet you. The youngest man, barely an adult with auburn hair and storm-gray eyes, stared at Naruto with an intensity that made him want to squirm. It's really him, he whispered, more to himself than anyone else. The woman, beautiful but fierce-looking, with hair like fire cascading down her back, pressed a hand to her mouth, eyes bright with what might have been tears. But it was the eldest, the stern-faced man with hair like dying embers streaked with ash, who rose to his feet and took a step toward Naruto. His movement was careful, deliberate, as if approaching a wild animal that might bolt. Naruto Uzumaki, he said, his voice deep and resonant in a way that seemed to vibrate in Naruto's bones. My name is Kazashi Uzumaki. The name hit Naruto like a physical blow. Uzumaki. The same as his. The same as. We've come a very long way, Kazashi continued, to find our family. Naruto's mouth opened and closed, words failing him entirely. His gaze darted to the Hokage, seeking confirmation, explanation, denial, anything to make sense of what he was hearing. Hiruzen nodded once, his eyes ancient and tired. Naruto, sit down. There's something you should have been told a long time ago. The woman, Akane, Naruto would soon learn, stepped forward then, extending a hand that trembled almost imperceptibly. We're your family, Naruto, she said, her voice breaking on his name. We've come to take you home. Chapter 3, Blood Ties. Naruto's world tilted on its axis, the Hokage's office blurring at the edges as blood rushed in his ears. Family. The word hung in the air between them, foreign and impossible. You're lying. The accusation burst from him, sharp and reflexive. He backed toward the door, fingers curling into defensive fists. I don't have any family. Everyone knows that. Akane flinched as if struck, her outstretched hand falling to her side. The hurt flashing across her face was so raw, so genuine, that Naruto felt an inexplicable pang of guilt. Naruto! The Hokage's voice cut through the tension, steady as an anchor in a storm. Hear them out. Why should I? Naruto's voice cracked, betraying the emotions churning beneath his defiance. Where were they my whole life? Why show up now? Takeo stepped forward, sunlight catching the crimson in his hair. Because we only just found you. That's convenient. Naruto sneered, crossing his arms as a shield against hope. Hope hurt worse than loneliness. He'd learned that lesson years ago. Sit down, Hiruzen commanded, not unkindly. All of you. The room settled into an uneasy tableau, three red-haired strangers on one side, Naruto perched on the edge of his chair on the other, ready to bolt. The Hokage sighed, the sound heavy with the weight of secrets too long kept. Naruto, he began, fingers steepled before him. What do you know about the Uzumaki clan? Naruto blinked. Clan? Like Sasuke's? A muscle twitched in Kazashi's jaw. Our clan was once as powerful as the Uchiha, he said, voice tight with controlled emotion. Allies of Konoha since its founding. Seal masters without equal. If they were so great, Naruto challenged, then where have they been? Where have you been? The room's temperature seemed to drop. Kazashi's weathered face hardened into granite. Scattered across the world, he answered, each word edged with old pain. Survivors of a massacre. Our village, Yuzushiogakure, was destroyed in the Second Shinobi War. Akane explained, her fingers absently tracing a spiral pattern on the armrest. Our enemies feared our sealing techniques. They came in the night, Kiri, Kumo, smaller villages. All at once. Naruto's eyes widened despite himself. A whole village, gone? Not entirely. Takeo said, the seal patterns on his wristbands pulsing faintly with chakra. Some escaped. Children, mostly. Families separated. Names changed for protection. For decades, we believed ourselves extinct. Until we began finding each other. Akane continued, leaning forward. Developing seals to locate others with Uzumaki chakra signatures. The search led us here, to you. Naruto's gaze darted between them, searching for lies and finding none. How do I know that we're really? Hiruzen nodded to Kazashi, who produced a small scroll from within his robes. Unrolled across the table, it revealed an intricate web of names and lines, a family tree, branches spanning generations. Your mother, Kazashi said, pointing to a name near the bottom, was Kushina Uzumaki. The name hit Naruto like a physical blow. A name. His mother had a name. A real person, not just a faceless ghost he'd imagined in his darkest, loneliest moments. Kushina, he repeated, the syllables strange and precious on his tongue. She was brought to Konoha as a child, Hiruzen explained, watching Naruto carefully. After Yuzushiogakure fell. She had hair like fire, Akane said, her voice soft with memory. Even redder than mine. And a temper to match. Something broke in Naruto's chest, a dam holding back 12 years of questions. What did she look like? Did she like ramen too? Why did she? His voice caught. Why did she leave me? A silence fell, heavy as a funeral shroud. Your mother died the night you were born, Naruto, Hiruzen said quietly. The night the nine-tailed fox attacked the village. The words landed like stones in still water, ripples of understanding spreading outward. Connections Naruto had never been allowed to make suddenly crystallized. His birthday, the same day as the attack. The villagers' hatred. The whispers that followed him. The monster sealed inside him. She died, because of me? The question emerged as barely a whisper. No! Akane's vehemence startled him. She died protecting you. Protecting the village. She was a hero, Naruto. A hero. Not a demon. Not a monster. A hero with a name, Kushina Uzumaki. I have her face, Naruto murmured, almost to himself. You do, Takeo confirmed, smiling slightly. But your eyes and hair, those came from your father. Naruto's head snapped up. My father? Who? That, Hiruzen interrupted firmly, is a discussion for another time. Naruto bristled, ready to argue, but Kazashi raised a placating hand. One truth at a time, Naruto. Today is about your Uzumaki heritage. Your mother was special, even among our clan, Akane explained. She was brought to Konoha for a purpose. Naruto's eyes narrowed with sudden understanding. The Nine Tails. She had it too, didn't she? Before me. The Hokage's eyebrows rose in surprise. How did you? I'm not stupid, old man. Naruto snapped, pieces falling into place like a puzzle he'd been solving his whole life without knowing it. Same birthday as the attack. The seal on my stomach. The way everyone looks at me. His hands clenched in his lap. All this time, you knew who my mother was. You knew I had family out there somewhere. And you never told me. The accusation hung in the air like a kunai. I made a promise to protect you, Hiruzen replied, not defensive but weary. Your mother had powerful enemies. As does your father. Your anonymity was your shield. Some shield. Naruto laughed bitterly. The whole village hates me and I never even knew why. Not the whole village, Hiruzen corrected gently. Enough of it. Naruto shot back, years of pain bubbling to the surface. I grew up alone. I've been alone my whole life when I didn't have to be. Silence descended again, thick with regret and recrimination. Then, surprising everyone, Naruto turned to the Uzumaki trio. Prove it, he demanded, blue eyes fierce with challenge. Prove we're related. Prove you're really my family. Without hesitation, Takeo rolled up his sleeve, revealing an intricate seal pattern spiraling around his forearm. Blood recognizes blood, he said, extending his arm toward Naruto. An Uzumaki recognition seal. It will respond only to our clan's chakra. Naruto eyed the seal suspiciously. What do I do? Touch it, Takeo instructed. Channel the smallest amount of chakra you can manage. Naruto's hand hovered uncertainly before pressing against the inked skin. Concentrating, he pushed the tiniest trickle of chakra he could control into the point of contact. The effect was instantaneous and spectacular. The seal erupted with crimson light, spiraling patterns leaping from Takeo's skin to wrap around Naruto's wrists like living things. The light pulsed once, twice, then flared so brightly that Naruto had to shield his eyes. When the glow subsided, a small spiral pattern had transferred itself to the inside of Naruto's wrist, not a tattoo, but a soft impression that seemed to shimmer just beneath the skin. What is this? Naruto asked, staring at the mark. Recognition, Kazashi said, his stern demeanor softening for the first time. The seal knows you. Accepts you. He rolled up his own sleeve, revealing an identical spiral. As we do. The simple statement, delivered without flourish, struck Naruto with unexpected force. Acceptance. The one thing he chased his entire life, offered now without conditions, without tests to pass or expectations to meet. I don't understand, Naruto said, voice small. Why would you want me? I'm the dead last at the academy. I can't even do a simple clone jutsu. Akane laughed then, the sound startling in its warmth. Naruto, no Uzumaki has ever been able to make standard clones. Our chakra reserves are too massive for such delicate techniques. Naruto blinked in confusion. What? It's true, Takeo confirmed, grinning. We're known for having enormous chakra capacities, far larger than average shinobi. Clone jutsu requires precise control of tiny amounts of chakra. It would be like trying to fill a thimble from a waterfall. That's why your mother specialized in different techniques, Hiruzen added. As did most Uzumaki. Naruto sat back, stunned. Not a failure. Not defective. Just Uzumaki. There's something else you should know, Hiruzen said carefully. Something about your mother that explains much about you. The three Uzumaki exchanged knowing glances. Your mother was a Jinchuriki, like you, Kazashi explained. The previous vessel of the Nine Tails. Our clan has a special relationship with the tailed beasts, Akane added. Our life force, our chakra, they're uniquely suited to containing such power. That's why the first Hokage's wife, an Uzumaki, was the original Nine Tails Jinchuriki. Takeo finished. It's part of our legacy. Naruto stared at them, overwhelmed. In the space of 30 minutes, his entire identity had been rewritten. Not an orphan, but the scion of a powerful clan. Not a random vessel for the Nine Tails, but the third in a line of Uzumaki Jinchuriki. Not an inexplicable failure at basic jutsu, but possessor of chakra reserves too vast for standard techniques. This is... He swallowed hard. It's a lot. Too much at once, perhaps, Hiruzen acknowledged. Which is why I've agreed to a compromise. Naruto looked up, wary. What kind of compromise? A week, Akane said, leaning forward with undisguised eagerness. Stay with us for 1 week before your graduation. Learn about your heritage, your mother, your clan techniques. Then decide. Decide what? Your future, Kazashi stated simply. Whether you wish to maintain ties with your clan. Whether you wish to integrate your Uzumaki training with your Konoha duties. Or, he paused, measuring his words, whether you wish to leave with us entirely. Leave? Naruto's voice cracked. Leave Konoha? That decision need not be made today, Hiruzen interjected firmly. Or even next week. For now, the question is simpler. Will you spend this week with your family, Naruto? Will you give them, and yourself, this chance? Naruto sat perfectly still, feeling the weight of the moment. 1,000 emotions warred within him: suspicion, hope, anger, longing, resentment, curiosity. Family. The word he'd whispered to himself on countless lonely nights, staring at the ceiling of his empty apartment. I don't. He began, then stopped, collecting himself. I need to think. Kazashi nodded, respect flickering in his eyes. A wise response. Could I? Naruto hesitated, then pushed forward. Could I see something of my mother's? Something real? The request hung in the air, naked in its vulnerability. Without a word, Akane reached into her robe and withdrew a small, worn leather pouch. From it, she produced a simple hairpin, jade and silver, carved with tiny spirals that matched the symbol on Naruto's jumpsuit. She wore this, Akane said softly, placing it in Naruto's palm. When her hair was short, before she came to Konoha. Naruto stared at the small object, running a finger over the cool stone. Something real. Something she had touched. The first tangible proof he'd ever held that his mother had existed. There's more, Takeo added, producing a sealed scroll from a pouch at his hip. Letters she wrote to clan members who escaped. A lock of her hair, preserved in sealing crystal. Photos, a few of them, from before she died. Before everything was lost. We brought these things for you, Akane said, her voice gentle. Whether you choose to come with us or not, they're yours by right. Naruto looked up, finding 3 pairs of eyes watching him with an emotion he'd rarely encountered, patient understanding. No pressure. No demands. Just family, waiting for him to find his way to them. 1 week, he said finally, his voice steadier than he felt. I'll stay with you for 1 week. Relief washed over their faces, though Kazashi maintained his dignity with only a solemn nod. Akane was less reserved, her smile breaking like dawn after a long night. When? Naruto asked, suddenly practical. We've arranged temporary quarters within the village, Hiruzen explained. You can move in today if you wish. Naruto nodded slowly, reality settling in. I need to pack some things. I'll accompany you, Takeo offered, then added with a small grin. Cousin. The words sent an unexpected jolt through Naruto. Cousin. Family. His. The walk to Naruto's apartment was silent at first, both parties assessing each other in sidelong glances. The spring sun bathed Konoha in golden light, villages going about their day with the usual avoidance of Naruto's presence. Except now, the stairs lingered longer, taking in the unusual sight of someone, especially someone with such distinctive hair, walking willingly beside the village pariah. They look at you differently, Takeo observed quietly. Naruto shrugged, affecting nonchalance. I'm used to it. You shouldn't have to be. The simple statement, delivered without pity but with quiet certainty, caught Naruto off guard. He'd spent so long pretending the stares didn't matter that having someone acknowledge them felt strangely validating. So, Naruto began, desperate to change the subject. You're really my cousin? Second cousin, technically, Takeo replied. Your mother was my father's cousin. He smiled. Family trees get complicated when there are so few of us left. What's it like? Naruto blurted. Having a clan, I mean. Takeo considered this as they climbed the stairs to Naruto's apartment. Noisy, he said finally, with a grin. Uzumaki aren't known for their quiet dispositions. Really? Naruto couldn't hide his interest. Oh yes. Quick to anger, quick to forgive, quick to laugh, that's the Uzumaki way. Stubborn as stone, loyal to a fault. And loud. Definitely loud. A smile tugged at Naruto's lips. That did sound familiar. They reached his door, and Naruto hesitated, suddenly embarrassed by the thought of someone seeing his shabby living space. It's not much, he mumbled, fumbling with the key. The door swung open to reveal the small studio apartment, a bed in one corner, small kitchenette in another, table cluttered with instant ramen cups and scattered scrolls from half-hearted study attempts. Takeo's face gave nothing away as he stepped inside, examining the space with thoughtful eyes. You live here alone? Yeah. Naruto shrugged, trying to sound casual. Since I was 6. Takeo's expression darkened momentarily, but he smoothed it away with practiced ease. Well then, he said, clapping his hands together. What should we bring? Bring? Naruto blinked. For the week. Don't worry about clothes, we've brought traditional Uzumaki garments for you. But personal items, things you'll want to have. Naruto looked around, suddenly aware of how few possessions he truly cared about. I don't need much. He moved around the small space, gathering essentials with mechanical efficiency. His frog wallet, a few shinobi tools, his goggles, a plant that had somehow survived his sporadic attention. What about this? Takeo asked, picking up a framed photograph from the bedside table. Naruto with Irika-sensei at Ichiraku, both grinning over steaming bowls of ramen. Yeah. Naruto took it carefully. That should come. As he continued packing, a question bubbled up from the depths of his churning thoughts. Why didn't you find her? He asked abruptly. My mother. Before she. Takeo's movements stilled. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with regret. We tried. For years we searched, developing new seals, following rumor and gossip across nations. But Konoha kept her hidden, protected. From her own family? From everyone. Takeo sighed, settling on the edge of Naruto's bed. After the fall of our village, paranoia ran deep. Those of us who escaped didn't know who to trust, where to go. Many changed their names, hid their heritage. By the time we began to reconnect, to rebuild our network, she was gone. Naruto finished quietly. Yes. Takeo's hands curled into fists, then deliberately relaxed. But we found you. Late, but not too late. Naruto zipped his pack closed, the finality of the sound marking a boundary between his old life and whatever came next. I'm ready, he said, slinging the bag over his shoulder. It seemed impossibly light for something meant to contain his entire life. He moved to the door, then paused, looking back at the small apartment that had been his only home. The silence that had greeted him every day. The emptiness he'd filled with pranks and proclamations and dreams too big for anyone to ignore. Hey, Takeo? Yes, cousin? Naruto grinned, a real grin, not the mask he wore for the village. Are Uzumaki really as good at pranks as they are at sealing jutsu? Takeo's laughter echoed through the apartment, bright and genuine. Oh, Naruto, he said, throwing an arm around the boy's shoulders. Wait until you hear about the time your mother dyed the entire ANBU uniform supply neon pink. You are definitely your mother's son. With that, they stepped out together, closing the door on 12 years of solitude. Chapter 4 New Foundations. The Uzumaki compound materialized from the mundane street like a mirage. One moment Naruto was trudging behind Takeo through an unremarkable Konoha side street. The next they'd passed through a barely perceptible ripple in the air and emerged into a vibrant courtyard awash in crimson and gold. Whoa! Naruto stumbled to a halt, nearly dropping his meager pack. How did? Perimeter seals, Takeo explained, grinning at Naruto's slack-jawed amazement. Disguise and deflection. Most people walk right past without ever noticing this place exists. Naruto spun in a slow circle, drinking in details with hungry eyes. The courtyard bustled with activity. 3 small pavilions arrayed around a central garden where impossibly blue flowers spiraled in mathematical precision. Intricate seal patterns adorned every surface, some pulsing with gentle chakra, others dormant but humming with potential. This wasn't here yesterday, Naruto protested. I know every inch of this village. And yet, came Akane's voice as she emerged from the largest pavilion, sunlight catching the copper highlights in her hair. Here we are. Kazashi appeared beside her, arms folded across his chest, inspecting Naruto with those penetrating eyes. The seals were established 3 days ago, calibrated last night. Time flows differently within our boundaries. We've had nearly 2 weeks to prepare while only 3 days passed outside. Naruto's head spun. You can do that with seals? Mess with time? Not exactly, Takeo said, leading him toward the central building. But perception, space, reality itself, those are more malleable than most shinobi realize. The doors slid open at their approach, revealing an interior that defied the pavilion's modest exterior dimensions. Golden light spilled through high windows onto polished wood floors, illuminating a space that should have been physically impossible. It's... Naruto's voice caught. It's bigger inside. Akane laughed, the sound like wind chimes in a summer breeze. Another seal application. We've learned to maximize limited space over generations of hiding. Naruto dropped his pack, too overwhelmed to maintain his practice cool. He bolted from room to room like a whirlwind, exclaiming over details that might seem mundane to others but represented an impossible luxury to him. A kitchen stocked with fresh food, not instant packages. Bedrooms with actual beds, not threadbare futons. Bookshelves laden with scrolls in languages he couldn't read. Weird contraptions that spun and hummed with chakra. His exploration careened to a halt when he burst into a room dominated by an altar. Candles flickered around the central display, a large spiraling symbol carved from luminescent crystal, surrounded by photographs and small personal items. Our remembrance shrine, Kazashi said quietly from behind him. Naruto froze, suddenly aware he might have intruded somewhere sacred. Sorry, I didn't. It's meant to be seen, Kazashi interrupted, stepping beside him. Especially by you. The old man gestured toward the photographs. Your ancestors. Your legacy. Naruto approached slowly, reverence replacing his manic energy. Among the photos, one had been placed prominently in the center, a young woman with hair like liquid fire, her face split in a wide, mischievous grin painfully similar to his own. Mom, he whispered, the word strange and wonderful on his tongue. Kushina, Kazashi confirmed, his normally stern voice softening. Age 14, shortly after becoming a chunin. Naruto stared, memorizing every detail, the shape of her eyes, the tilt of her smile, the way her hair framed her face. The photograph showed her mid-laugh, caught in a moment of pure joy. She's beautiful, he managed, throat tight. And terrible in her anger, Kazashi added with the ghost of a smile. Her temper was legendary even among Uzumaki, who are not known for their restraint. Naruto tore his gaze from the photo. Do I really look like her? Your face, yes, Kazashi nodded. Your coloring comes from your father, but your expressions, your smile. His voice caught imperceptibly. Those are pure Kushina. The moment stretched between them, fragile and precious, until the aroma of something rich and savory wafted through the doorway, breaking the spell. Akane's cooking, Kazashi explained, turning toward the door. Another Uzumaki tradition you should experience. Naruto lingered a moment longer, touching the frame with reverent fingers. I'll be back, he promised the smiling girl in the photo. The dinner table nearly buckled under its load, steaming bowls of seafood stew thick with unfamiliar spices, platters of grilled fish, vegetables and sauces that sparked and sizzled, and centerpiece to it all, a massive pot of ramen unlike any Naruto had ever seen. Salt ramen is the backbone of Uzushio cuisine, Akane explained, ladling the fragrant broth into Naruto's bowl. The coastal waters provided our most abundant resources. Naruto's eyes widened as he tasted the first spoonful, familiar enough to register as ramen but layered with flavors that danced and evolved across his palate, nothing like the instant cups that constituted his usual diet. This is amazing, he enthused through a mouthful, manners forgotten in his delight. The corners of Kazashi's mouth twitched upward despite his obvious effort to maintain his dignified bearing. Your mother had the same reaction to home cooking after years of Konoha food. Konoha natives can't handle proper spices, Takeo declared, reaching for a bottle of vivid red sauce and liberally dousing his already fiery stew. No heat tolerance. Naruto, determined to prove his Uzumaki heritage, grabbed the sauce and matched Takeo's portion. The first spoonful sent flames racing through his sinuses, tears springing to his eyes as he fought the urge to gasp. Takeo laughed. Perhaps start with a smaller portion, cousin. Too stubborn to admit defeat, Naruto powered through, sweat beading on his forehead as he finished the bowl through sheer force of will. Delicious, he wheezed, reaching for water. Akane smiled, her eyes soft with something Naruto couldn't quite identify, Pride, perhaps, or nostalgia. You eat just like her, too, she said quietly. Same determination. The meal progressed with stories flowing as freely as the food. Tales of Uzushio's glory days, of Kushina's legendary pranks, of clan traditions and customs. Naruto absorbed it all with desperate hunger, filing away each detail like precious treasures. So wait, he interrupted as Takeo described an Uzumaki ceremony. Everyone gets their spiral mark at 13? Is that what this is? He pointed to his cheeks. The three Uzumaki exchanged surprised glances. Your whisker marks? Akane leaned forward, studying his face. No, those are different. Connected to your status as a Jinchuriki, we believe. The traditional spiral is gained through ritual, Kazashi explained. A coming-of-age ceremony where young Uzumaki receive their first formal seal training. Will I? Naruto hesitated, then plowed ahead. Will I get to do that? The ceremony thing? A charged silence fell over the table. Your 13th birthday is in October, yes? Akane asked carefully. Naruto nodded. Then yes, she said with conviction, ignoring Kazashi's sharp glance. If you wish it, we will perform the ceremony. It is your birthright. Something warm unfurled in Naruto's chest, not just the spicy food, but a sense of belonging, of future, of traditions waiting to embrace him. Tomorrow, Takeo announced, breaking the momentary tension. We begin your training in the clan arts. But what about the academy? Naruto asked, suddenly remembering. Graduation's in a week. The Hokage has been informed, Kazashi said dismissively. You are excused from classes this week for family matters. Family matters. Two simple words that Naruto had never imagined would apply to him. Morning dawned with ritual unfamiliar to Naruto. Instead of his usual hasty breakfast, he found himself seated on a cushion in the courtyard, watching in fascination as Takeo demonstrated the Uzumaki morning meditation. Chakra circulation is key to our techniques, Takeo explained, his hands forming an unfamiliar seal. Most shinobi conserve chakra. We cultivate it, encourage it to grow, expand, regenerate. Naruto fidgeted, struggling to maintain the cross-legged position. Can't we start with something cool? Like explosions or giant ceiling chains or… Foundations first. Kazashi interrupted from where he observed nearby. Power without control is merely destruction. Naruto sighed dramatically but attempted to mimic Takeo's position. As he closed his eyes and focused inward as instructed, he became aware of his chakra in a way he never had before, not as an abstract concept but as a living current running through his body, vast and turbulent. Whoa! He breathed, eyes flying open. Is it supposed to feel like an ocean inside me? Takeo's eyebrows rose. You can sense it already? Without training? It's big and blue and angry? No, not angry. Restless. The three Uzumaki exchanged significant looks. Extraordinary chakra sensitivity, Akane murmured. Just like Kushina. Can all Uzumaki feel their chakra like this? Naruto asked. With training, Kazashi answered, studying Naruto with new interest. Years of it, typically. The size of your reserves is exceptional even by Uzumaki standards, Takeo added. Your mother was the same, chakra vast enough to contain the 9 tails. Is that why I can't do regular clones? Naruto asked, connecting dots that had eluded him for years. Because I have too much chakra? Precisely. Takeo grinned. It's like trying to fill a teacup with a fire hose. But there are other techniques better suited to large reserves. The morning progressed from meditation to basic seal theory, concepts that should have been mind-numbingly dull but somehow clicked in Naruto's brain with surprising ease. By midday, he'd grasped fundamentals that had eluded academy students twice his age. It's in your blood, Akane explained when Naruto expressed surprise at his own comprehension. Seal theory that confounds other shinobi is intuitive to Uzumaki. After lunch came practical application. Takeo guided Naruto through creating his first functional seal, a simple light-emitting tag. Visualization is key, Takeo instructed as Naruto's brush hovered over the blank tag. See the pattern in your mind, feel the flow of energy it will create, then let your chakra guide your hand. Naruto closed his eyes, concentrating. When he opened them, his brush moved with unexpected surety, leaving lines of chakra-infused ink that seemed to pulse with potential. Now channel the smallest bit of chakra you can manage into the seal, Takeo directed. Naruto placed his finger at the seal's center and pushed a whisper of chakra into it, or tried to. What emerged was more flood than trickle, the seal flaring with blinding brilliance that forced everyone to shield their eyes. Too much! Takeo laughed as the light finally faded. But the structure was perfect. You have natural talent, cousin. Naruto beamed, pride swelling in his chest. Natural talent. Not words he'd ever expected to hear applied to himself. Control will come with practice, Kazashi assured him, and Naruto nearly fell over at what appeared to be actual approval from the stern clan elder. By afternoon's end, Naruto had created 3 functioning seals and progressed to combining basic elements into compound structures. His hands were stained with ink, his mind buzzing with new concepts, but his smile hadn't dimmed once. Can we do more? He asked eagerly as Takeo began packing away the supplies. Rest, Takeo advised with a knowing smile. Let your mind process what you've learned. Besides, don't you want to see your friends? Let them know you haven't vanished? Naruto hesitated, reality intruding on the magical bubble of his new existence. Friends. The academy. Graduation looming just days away. Yeah, he said finally. I should probably check in. Word traveled fast in a ninja village. By the time Naruto strolled into his usual training ground, distinctive red-haired escort in tow, it seemed everyone knew something had changed. Kiba spotted him first, breaking away from a sparring match with Shino. Yo, Naruto! Where've you been, man? There's crazy rumors flying around about you. Rumors? Naruto asked innocently, secretly enjoying the undivided attention of his classmates for once. Something about long-lost relatives showing up. Shikamaru drawled from where he reclined against a tree, looking supremely unbothered but his sharp eyes cataloging every detail of Takeo's appearance. How troublesome! Ino and Sakura abandoned their own conversation, drifting closer with poorly disguised curiosity. Who's the redhead? Ino demanded without preamble, assessing Takeo with appreciative eyes. This is my cousin Takeo, Naruto announced, the word sending a thrill through him. My cousin. He's teaching me super advanced clan techniques. Clan? Sakura repeated skeptically. Since when do you have a clan, Naruto? Since always, Takeo interjected smoothly. The Uzumaki clan has simply been dispersed for some time. Uzumaki clan? Shikamaru straightened slightly, his interest visibly piqued. As in the Yuzushiobikyu Uzumaki? The Seal Masters? Takeo inclined his head. You're well informed for your age. I read history books. Shikamaru shrugged. Thought they were mostly wiped out in the Second War. Not entirely, Takeo replied, resting a hand on Naruto's shoulder. And now we're rebuilding, starting with reclaiming our lost kin. The statement hung in the air, heavy with implication. Naruto stood straighter under Takeo's hand, chin lifting with newfound pride. No way, Kiba scoffed. Dead Last has some fancy clan? Next you'll tell me he's royalty or something. Takeo's expression cooled. The Uzumaki were allied with the Senju in founding Konoha. Our sealing techniques protected this village for generations. Show some respect, Inuzuka. Kiba's eyes widened at being identified by clan name. Akamaru whined softly from atop his head. Sorry, Kiba mumbled, backing down in the face of Takeo's sudden intensity. Just surprised is all. You're really leaving the academy? Choji asked around a mouthful of chips. A week before graduation? Not leaving exactly. Naruto hedged. Just taking some family time. I'll be back for the exam. With improved skills, Takeo added, his earlier chill replaced with a mischievous smile reminiscent of Naruto's own. Perhaps a few surprises for your instructors. The conversation might have continued, but a dark presence materialized at the training ground's edge. Sasuke stood apart, arms crossed, observing the gathering with unreadable eyes. When Naruto met his gaze, something electric and complicated passed between them. Before Naruto could react, Sasuke turned and walked away, his back a rigid line of tension. "What's his problem?" Naruto muttered. "Isn't it obvious?" Shikamaru yawned. "You're not like him anymore." "Huh! You were both orphans," Shikamaru explained with his characteristic bluntness. "Now you're not. You have something he lost and can never get back." The simple analysis landed like a physical blow. Naruto stared after Sasuke's retreating form, a complex tangle of emotions knotting in his chest. "I should talk to him," he decided, surprising himself. Takeo nodded understanding. "I'll wait here." Naruto jogged after Sasuke, catching him at the edge of the training field. "Hey! Bastard! Wait up!" Sasuke paused but didn't turn. "What do you want, loser?" "Look, I just..." Naruto faltered, unsure what exactly he wanted to say. "Things are weird right now, okay? Congratulations on your family reunion," Sasuke replied, voice dripping with icy sarcasm. "How fortunate for you. I didn't know they existed until yesterday," Naruto protested. "It's not like I was hiding secret relatives." Sasuke turned then, his dark eyes burning with something Naruto couldn't name. "Does it matter? You have what every orphan dreams of, someone coming back for you." His voice dropped, almost inaudible. "Some of us don't get miracles." The raw pain beneath Sasuke's words shocked Naruto into momentary silence. In that unguarded instant, he glimpsed the wounded boy beneath the prodigy's perfect veneer, a mirror of his own loneliness, differently shaped but just as deep. "It doesn't change anything," Naruto said finally. "Between us, I mean. I'm still going to kick your ass and become Hokage." Something flickered across Sasuke's face, not quite a smile, but a fractional softening. "You can try, dead last." He turned and continued walking, but the rigid tension had eased from his shoulders. "I'll see you at graduation," Naruto called after him. "Better be ready to lose to an Uzumaki." Sasuke's only response was a dismissive wave, but somehow the familiar rivalry felt like solid ground in Naruto's rapidly changing world. Days slipped by in a whirlwind of training, stories, and discoveries. Naruto absorbed Uzumaki traditions like a sponge, from their boisterous mealtime debates to their reverence for ancestral techniques. He learned to meditate properly, to sense the currents of his own massive chakra reserves, to understand the basic principles that made Uzumaki's sealing jutsu legendary. At night, Akane shared stories of Kushina, her pranks, her dreams, her indomitable spirit. Each tale was a puzzle piece, forming a picture of the mother Naruto had never known but whose legacy flowed in his veins. "She once sealed all the toilets in the Hokage Tower to explode with glitter when used," Akane recalled, eyes dancing with mirth. "Even the ANBU were sparkling for days." "That's brilliant!" Naruto cackled, mentally filing away the idea. "Your chakra chains manifested early," Kazashi added from where he sat repairing a complex seal. "By age 10, she could produce 3 distinct chains simultaneously, a feat most Uzumaki wouldn't achieve until adulthood." "Chakra chains?" Naruto perked up. "What are those?" The three exchanged glances. "A specialized Uzumaki technique," Takeo explained. "Physical manifestations of chakra in chain form, useful for restraint, especially of tailed beasts." "Can I learn that?" Naruto demanded eagerly. "Perhaps," Kazashi replied noncommittally. "First, you must master the fundamentals." On the 5th day, Takeo introduced shadow clones. "This technique is typically considered Jonin level," he explained as they stood in a specialized training room ringed with dampening seals. "But for an Uzumaki with your reserves, it's more suitable than standard clones." "Shadow clones?" Naruto repeated. "How are they different?" "They're solid, for one thing. Physical duplicates, not mere illusions." Each contains a portion of your chakra and can act independently. When dispelled, their memories and experiences return to you. Naruto's eyes widened. That sounds awesome. It's also chakra-intensive, Takeo cautioned. Most shinobi can create only a few before risking chakra exhaustion. But you... His eyes gleamed. Let's see what an Uzumaki Jinchuriki can do. The hand signs were simple, the theory complex but somehow intuitive to Naruto's mind. His first attempt produced 20 perfect copies, manifesting in a circle around the training room. Holy crap! Naruto exclaimed, staring at his duplicates in wonder. It worked! Takeo's jaw had actually dropped. 20 on your first try, and you're not even winded. Is that good? One of the Naruto clones asked. Most jonin would collapse creating 5. Takeo replied, recovering his composure. Your chakra reserves are extraordinary. Naruto beamed, both the original and his copies wearing identical grins of delight. Now, Takeo continued, producing a stack of blank sealing tags. Imagine how quickly you could learn with 20 of you practicing simultaneously. Naruto's eyes widened as the implications sank in. Wait, if they learn stuff, and I get their memories when they poof. Exactly, Takeo confirmed. 1 hour with 20 clones equals 20 hours of practice. That's amazing! 21 voices shouted in unison. What followed was chaos of the most productive kind. 20 Narutos practicing basic seals under Takeo's increasingly frazzled supervision, each making different mistakes, each learning different lessons, all feeding back to the original when dispelled. By evening, Naruto's head buzzed with accumulated knowledge, his chakra pathways tingling with the residual energy of his clones. I feel like my brain's gonna explode, he groaned over dinner, massaging his temples. Neurofeedback, Akane explained sympathetically. It gets easier with practice. Your mind learns to process the influx more efficiently. It's worth it, Naruto declared, determination overriding discomfort. I learned more today than in a year at the academy. Tomorrow, we begin practical applications, Kazashi announced, surprising them all with his direct address to Naruto. Barrier seals, explosive tags, chakra suppression arrays. The fun stuff, Takeo translated with a grin. That night, Naruto lay awake in his new room, a real bedroom, not the shabby studio he'd called home for years. Moonlight filtered through rice paper screens, illuminating scrolls and sealing equipment organized neatly on shelves. His mind raced with possibilities, with techniques half-learned, with the strange new feeling of belonging. 6 days ago, he'd been Naruto Uzumaki, village pariah, dead last of the academy, orphan and troublemaker. Now he was Naruto Uzumaki, scion of a legendary clan, inheritor of powerful techniques, son of Kushina the red-hot habanero. Graduation loomed just days away. And for the first time, Naruto faced it not with dread of inevitable failure, but with growing confidence in abilities uniquely his own. On the morning of the 6th day, Naruto stood in the center of the training room surrounded by 50 shadow clones. Each held a brush poised over a blank sealing tag, faces set in identical expressions of concentration. Focus, Takeo instructed from where he observed with Akane and Kazashi. Visualize the spiral containment pattern, then the 5-point release trigger, then the chakra conversion matrix. Right. 51 Narutos replied in unison, brows furrowing in effort. Brushes moved in synchronized sweeps, chakra-infused ink flowing across paper in precise patterns. The air hummed with energy as each seal took form, a modified storage design capable of absorbing and redirecting an opponent's chakra attack. Now, Kazashi commanded, stepping forward. Apply the activation sequence. 51 fingers pressed against 51 seals, channeling precise amounts of chakra. The tags glowed blue, then settled into a steady pulse that matched the rhythm of Naruto's heartbeat. Perfect! Akane breathed, genuine awe in her voice. All 51, properly calibrated on the first attempt. Naruto, the original, grinned so widely his face threatened to split. Told you I could do it! Never doubted. Takeo replied, clapping him on the shoulder. Your progress is unprecedented. It's in his blood, Kazashi stated, and coming from him, the simple acknowledgement felt like the highest praise. The clones continued working, dispersing in small groups as they completed various assignments. With each dispersion, Naruto's understanding deepened, concepts linking and expanding in his mind like an intricate seal network. By afternoon, the original Naruto stood alone in the training room's center, surrounded by concentric rings of ceiling arrays etched into the floor. His hands moved through a complex sequence, not ninja hand signs, but an Uzumaki chakra molding pattern. Concentrate, Kazashi instructed from the room's edge. Feel the resonance between your chakra and the seal network. They are extensions of each other of you. Naruto closed his eyes, sensing rather than seeing the seals around him. The patterns glowed in his mind's eye, pulsing with potential energy waiting to be shaped. No, Kazashi commanded. Release. Naruto's eyes snapped open, blazing blue with concentrated chakra. His hands completed the final position, and the seal network flared to life, rings of light spinning around him, faster and faster until they merged into a translucent dome of protective energy. Uzumaki Sealing Art Spiral Barrier, Naruto declared, voice resonating oddly within the chakra construct. Outside the barrier, Takeo hurled a kunai with precise force. The weapon struck the barrier's surface and hung suspended, slowly dissolving into pure chakra that was absorbed into the seal network. Conversion successful, Akane noted, circling the barrier with analytical eyes. Structural integrity at 90%? Remarkable for a first attempt. Inside the dome, Naruto's face shone with sweat and triumph. The technique, one that typically required years of training, had come to him with surprising naturalness after just days of intensive study. I did it, he panted, the strain of maintaining the barrier evident but manageable. You did, Kazashi confirmed, and there, just for a moment, a smile broke through his stern demeanor. Your mother would be proud. The barrier flickered and dissolved as Naruto's concentration broke, overwhelmed by the simple praise. Tears pricked his eyes, but for once, he didn't bother hiding them. Can I? He began, then swallowed hard. Can I try the chains? The chakra chains you said she used? The three Uzumaki exchanged glances. It's an advanced technique, Akane cautioned. Even with your progress. I can do it, Naruto insisted, determination hardening his voice. I know I can. I can feel it. After a moment of silent communication, Kazashi nodded. The fundamental principle is similar to the barrier, but instead of creating a static structure, you project your chakra outward in dynamic form. Visualization is key, Takeo added. Imagine your chakra as links forged from your very life force, extending from your core. Naruto closed his eyes again, reaching inward to the vast ocean of chakra that had become increasingly familiar to his mental touch. This time, instead of shaping it into a dome, he envisioned it streaming outward in connected segments, like the chains that had adorned the shrine to his mother. His body tensed with effort, sweat beading on his forehead, as he molded chakra in a way he never attempted before. For long moments, nothing happened. Then, a flicker of golden light erupted from his outstretched hand, forming a single link that hovered momentarily before dispersing like mist. I saw it! Naruto exclaimed, eyes flying open. Did you see? It started to form. Extraordinary, Kazashi murmured. To produce even a partial manifestation on the first attempt. Again, Naruto demanded, already repositioning himself. I can do better. The training continued as afternoon faded into evening, Naruto's determination never flagging despite repeated partial successes and failures. By nightfall, he could consistently produce a chain 3 links long that held its form for several seconds before dissolving. Enough, Akane finally insisted. Even Uzumaki chakra has limits. One more try, Naruto pleaded, breathing hard but eyes still burning with resolve. Tomorrow, Kazashi ordered, his tone brooking no argument. Progress requires rest as much as effort. Reluctantly, Naruto allowed himself to be led from the training room, his body trembling with exhaustion but his mind already planning the next day's attempts. That night, dreams of golden chains and spiraling seals chased him through sleep. In those dreams, a woman with hair like living flames smiled at him, her own chakra chains dancing around her like loyal serpents. "My son," Dream Kushina said, voice impossibly familiar though he'd never heard it. "You're finding your way home." Dawn broke on the 7th day, Naruto's final day before returning to the academy for graduation. He rose before the sun, slipping silently into the training room to practice alone in the gray pre-morning light. Shadow clones filled the space, some working on seals, others attempting chakra chains, still others reviewing theory scrolls, 50 parallel training tracks operating simultaneously. When Takeo found him 2 hours later, Naruto sat cross-legged in the center of the room, eyes closed in deep meditation, clones arrayed around him in concentric circles. As Takeo watched, Naruto's eyes opened, not their usual blue but glowing with concentrated chakra. "Uzumaki sealing art," Naruto intoned, hands forming the final position of a sequence Takeo recognized with shock as far beyond what they'd taught him. "Chain manifestation." Golden light erupted from Naruto's body, not from his hands alone but from multiple tenketsu points across his torso and arms. The light coalesced into glowing chains that arced outward in perfect symmetry, a complete set of 8 links from each origin point. The shadow clones synchronized their movements, each producing a single chain that linked with the others, forming an intricate 3-dimensional seal pattern hovering in the air around the original Naruto. "Spiral binding," 51 voices declared in perfect unison. The chains contracted suddenly, converging inward to form a perfect sphere of interlocked links around Naruto's seated form. Light pulsed through the construct, each chain segment illuminating in sequence until the entire sphere glowed with steady golden radiance. Takeo stood frozen in the doorway, witnessing something he'd seen only in ancient clan scrolls, a technique that had died with Yuzushiogakyo's fall, reconstructed by a boy who'd never known his heritage until a week ago. "How?" he breathed, drawing Naruto's attention. The sphere dissolved, chains retracting into Naruto's body as his eyes returned to their normal blue. The clones remained, watching Takeo with identical expressions of barely contained excitement. "I figured it out," they chorused. "I can see that," Takeo replied, still stunned. "But how? That technique isn't in any of the scrolls we gave you." The original Naruto stood, dispelling his clones in groups of 10, each dispersion adding to the glow of satisfaction on his face as their knowledge merged with his. "I dreamed it," he explained simply. "I saw Mom using it, and when I woke up I just knew how it worked." Takeo opened his mouth, closed it, then laughed, a sound of pure amazement. "Kushina's son indeed," he managed finally. "She always said the best techniques came to her in dreams." The sound of applause drew their attention to the doorway, where Akane and Kazashi stood watching. Akane's face shone with undisguised pride, while Kazashi's expression had softened to something approaching warmth. "Well done, Naruto," the old man said formally. "You have honored your heritage today." The simple praise meant more than any of Naruto's imagined accolades, more than the Hokage's acknowledgement, more than academy awards, more than the villagers' recognition. This was the approval of family, recognizing him not just for what he'd accomplished but for who he was. "I still have a lot to learn," Naruto said, surprising himself with his own humility. "Yes," Kazashi agreed, approaching to adjust Naruto's stance slightly. "But you have begun the journey properly. Tomorrow you return to your academy," Akane said, a shadow passing over her features. "Return to your life in Konoha." The statement hung in the air, heavy with unspoken questions. Would he choose to stay with them permanently after graduation? Would he embrace the Uzumaki path fully, perhaps even leave Konoha to help rebuild their scattered clan? "Yeah," Naruto nodded, sensing the weight of the moment. "But I'm not the same Naruto who left." "No," Takeo agreed, ruffling his spiky blonde hair. "You're not. One last lesson before tomorrow," Kazashi announced, producing a small wooden box from within his robes. Inside, nestled on crimson silk, lay a set of sealing brushes with handles carved from what appeared to be coral, and laid with spiral patterns in gold and ivory. "These were your mother's," Kozashi said, offering the box. "Her first proper sealing set, gifted on her 10th birthday." Naruto's hands trembled as he reached for the box. "I can't, these are too." "They are yours by right," Kozashi interrupted firmly. "Tools meant to be used, not enshrined." Naruto lifted a brush, feeling its perfect balance, the way it seemed to hum with potential in his grip. "Thank you," he whispered, the words utterly inadequate for the emotion swelling in his chest. "No," Akane said, producing a blank scroll of finest quality paper. "Show us what an Uzumaki can do with proper tools." Naruto grinned, the expression pure Kushina, and summoned his shadow clones back into existence. As the morning light strengthened, 51 pairs of hands moved in perfect unison, brushes dancing across paper as an ancient legacy found new life in the sun of Konoha's red-hot habanero. Tomorrow would bring challenges, choices, a return to the world that had shunned him. But today, surrounded by family and heritage, Naruto Uzumaki was exactly where he belonged. Chapter 5 Ripple Effects. Dawn broke over Konoha in shards of amber and gold, painting the Hokage Tower in fire-bright light as 5 figures gathered in its shadowed council chamber. The air hung thick with tension, invisible currents of political maneuvering swirling beneath formal pleasantries. "This is unprecedented." Koharu Yudatane's voice cut through the silence, sharp as a samban. The elderly councilwoman's face was a map of disapproval, deep-etched lines pulling her mouth into a permanent frown. "Allowing foreign elements unrestricted access to our Jinchuriki. They're his family, Koharu," Hiruzen countered, smoke curling from his pipe in lazy spirals. "Hardly foreign elements. Family or not." Hamura Mitokado adjusted his spectacles with a precise movement, light glinting off the lenses. "The boy contains the 9 tails. He is a military asset of Konoha, not some civilian child to be claimed by long-lost relatives." Kozashi Uzumaki stood like an ancient redwood, unbending before their skepticism. His crimson hair caught the early light, seeming to smolder with internal fire as he regarded the elders. "Military asset?" he repeated, voice dangerously soft. "Is that truly how Konoha views the son of Kushina Uzumaki? A weapon to be hoarded? Don't be naive." Danzo Shimura emerged from the room's deepest shadows, bandaged face half hidden in darkness. His visible eye gleamed with cold calculation. "Every village views their Jinchuriki as weapons. Pretty words don't change hard realities." "And yet," Kozashi countered, "Konoha claims to be different. More compassionate. More honorable." His eyes locked with Hiruzen's. "Or was that merely propaganda for the history books?" The Hokage winced imperceptibly. "The boy's welfare has always been my primary concern." "Has it?" Kozashi's question hung in the air, sharp-edged and uncomfortable. "This philosophical debate is irrelevant," Danzo interjected, tapping his cane against the floor for emphasis. The sound echoed like bones breaking. "The question before us is practical. Can we afford to allow the Jinchuriki to potentially leave the village? His name," Kozashi's voice dropped to a growl, "is Naruto Uzumaki. His identity doesn't change what he carries." Koharu snapped. "No, but it should change how you speak of him," Kozashi retorted. "He is a child first, vessel second. A child approaching graduation," Hamura noted. "Nearly a shinobi of Konoha." "Exactly my point." Danzo seized the opening. "He has been trained in our techniques, our tactics. He knows our defenses, our protocols. And he contains our most powerful bijou. The risk is unacceptable. We have not asked to remove him from Konoha," Kozashi clarified, tempering his anger with diplomatic precision. "Only to acknowledge his heritage and permit appropriate training in his clan techniques. For now," Danzo's voice dripped with suspicion. "But your long-term intentions remain unclear." Hiruzen blew a perfect smoke ring, watching it dissipate against the ceiling before speaking. "Naruto will make his own choice when the time comes. We agreed to this trial period. Let it play out. With respect, Lord Hokage. Danzo's tone suggested respect was the furthest thing from his mind. Your sentimental attachment to the boy clouds your judgment. The Jinchuriki must remain in Konoha, under our control. Control, Kazashi repeated, the word bitter on his tongue. That's the crux of it, isn't it? Not his welfare, not his happiness, just your control. His happiness is irrelevant compared to the security of the village, Koharu stated flatly. And there it is. Kazashi's eyes narrowed to flints of steel. The truth behind Konoha's pretty words. A heavy silence fell over the chamber, broken only by the soft tap of ash falling from Hiruzen's pipe. The week ends tomorrow, the Hokage finally said. Naruto returns to the academy for graduation. Beyond that, we will proceed one step at a time. Danzo's face remained impassive, but something cold and calculating flickered in his visible eye. Indeed, he murmured. One step at a time. Across the village, oblivious to the political firestorm surrounding his existence, Naruto stood in the center of the Uzumaki training ground, sweat glistening on his brow as he faced off against Takeo. The morning sun painted their shadows in stark contrast against the packed earth. Again, Takeo commanded, hands flashing through a complex sequence. Anticipate, don't react! Naruto gritted his teeth, body tensing as his cousin launched another barrage of chakra-infused sealing tags. They whistled through the air like deadly butterflies, their edges gleaming with suppression patterns designed to disrupt his chakra flow. This time, instead of dodging, Naruto's hands formed the Shadow Clone seal. 15 perfect duplicates materialized around him in a defensive perimeter, each summoning a short chakra chain from their palms. The chains intercepted the sealing tags, absorbing their energy before they could reach the original. Better! Takeo called, genuine pride warming his voice. He flicked his wrists, sending a new volley of tags arcing high overhead. But what about from above? Naruto's face split in a feral grin. Got that covered! His clones linked their chains together, forming a golden dome that crackled with energy as the tags struck its surface. Each impact flared with blue-white light, the seal's power feeding into the chain network instead of disrupting it. Conversion principles! Naruto crowed triumphantly. You taught me that yesterday! Takeo's eyebrows shot up. I mentioned it in passing. Once. Yeah, well. Naruto dispelled his clones with a casual wave, chains dissolving into motes of golden light. I'm a fast learner when someone actually explains stuff. The bitterness in those last words hung briefly in the air before Naruto's smile chased it away. Impressive. Akane's voice called from the edge of the training ground where she leaned against a post, arms crossed. Your mother would be throwing a celebration feast if she could see you now. Naruto's chest swelled with a complicated mixture of pride and grief. Really? Absolutely. Akane pushed off from the post, crossing to where they stood. She mastered chain techniques faster than anyone in her generation, but even she took months to achieve what you've done in days. It's just because I have a bunch of clones helping me practice. Naruto demurred, scuffing his sandal in the dirt. Don't diminish your achievements, Takeo chided, ruffling Naruto's hair. The shadow clones merely accelerate your learning, the understanding, the insight, that's all you. Naruto ducked his head, unused to praise but drinking it in like parched earth in a rainstorm. That's enough technical training for now, Akane declared. Time for lunch, then history and theory. Come on. Naruto's protest was immediate and explosive. I was just getting good at the chain barriers. Knowledge is power, little cousin. Takeo laughed, already heading toward the pavilion. Especially for Uzumaki. Naruto trudged after them, his reluctance purely for show. The truth, which still surprised him, was that he actually enjoyed the history lessons. Learning about Uzumaki, about his clan's achievements and traditions, filled a void he hadn't known existed. Inside, the main room had been transformed. Scrolls and maps covered the table, ancient texts unfurled beside more recent chronicles. The air smelled of ink, old paper, and the mouth-watering aroma of Akane's spicy seafood stew. Eat first, she insisted, ladling generous portions into bowls. Then we'll continue with the history of Uzumaki's sealing theory. Naruto attacked his food with characteristic enthusiasm, barely pausing for breath between bites. So, he managed between mouthfuls. When you said Mom was good at the chain stuff, how good was she, exactly? Akane and Takeo exchanged meaningful glances. She was exceptional, Akane said carefully, settling across from him. Even by Uzumaki standards. By her age, Takeo added, she could produce chains strong enough to restrain a tailed beast. Naruto's chopsticks froze halfway to his mouth. Seriously? That's possible? More than possible, Akane confirmed. It's how she contained the Nine Tails for so many years. A thoughtful silence fell, broken only by the soft clinking of utensils against bowls. Is that why? Naruto began, struggling to form the right question. Is that why the fox got loose when I was born? Because she couldn't use the chains anymore? The question struck like a physical blow. Akane's face tightened with pain, while Takeo looked away, suddenly fascinated by the wall hangings. Childbirth weakens the seal, Akane finally answered, her voice gentle. It requires absolute focus to maintain chains around a bijou. Your mother was vulnerable in that moment. Someone took advantage, Takeo added darkly. Someone who knew exactly when she would be at her weakest. The implication hung in the air, heavy and terrible. Not an accident. Not fate. Deliberate action by an unknown enemy. Does anyone know who? Naruto asked, voice small but edged with something dangerous. No, Akane answered simply. But the attack was too precisely timed, too well coordinated to be random. Naruto absorbed this in silence, something cold and determined settling in his gut. One more question to add to his growing list, one more truth to uncover. Could I learn to do that? He asked suddenly. Restrain the fox with chains, I mean. Akane nearly choked on her tea. That would be extraordinarily advanced, Naruto. But possible? He pressed. Theoretically, Takeo hedged. With years of dedicated training. Or less with shadow clones, Naruto pointed out, blue eyes gleaming with stubborn determination. I could practice way more than Mom ever could. Another exchange of glances between the adults. We should focus on basics first, Akane suggested diplomatically. Crawl before you sprint. I'm just saying. Naruto shrugged, returning to his food with feigned nonchalance. Would be pretty cool if I could talk to the fox without it trying to eat me all the time. The casual statement landed like an explosive tag. Talk to? Takeo sputtered. Naruto, the Nine Tails isn't a pet or a friend. It's a primordial force of malevolence. So everyone says? Naruto muttered. Has anyone actually asked it how it feels about that? Before either adult could formulate a response to this unprecedented perspective, a knock at the compound's entrance interrupted them. The barrier seals chimed softly, indicating a recognized visitor. That's probably Iruka-sensei, Naruto said, brightening. He said he'd stop by today. He bolted from the table, leaving his half-finished lunch forgotten in his excitement. Takeo started to rise, but Akane laid a restraining hand on his arm. Let them have a moment, she murmured. The teacher means a great deal to him. Outside, Naruto threw open the compound gate to find Iruka standing awkwardly at the threshold, clutching a small package and looking distinctly uncomfortable with the subtle pressure of the barrier seals. Iruka-sensei! Naruto launched himself at the Chunin with his usual exuberance. You came! Of course I came. Iruka laughed, catching him in a one-armed hug. I said I would, didn't I? The simple affirmation meant more than Naruto could express. People didn't always keep their promises to him, a hard lesson learned early and reinforced often. Come in, he urged, dragging Iruka by the arm. You gotta see all the cool stuff they've been teaching me. Iruka allowed himself to be pulled into the compound, his eyes widening as he took in the impossible dimensions of the space, the thrumming seal networks, the manifest craftsmanship in every detail. This is remarkable, he breathed, professional appreciation momentarily overriding his personal concerns. I've never seen sealing work of this caliber outside of historical texts. Right? Naruto bounced on his toes, practically vibrating with excitement. And guess what? I can do some of it now. Wanna see my shadow clones? Or the chakra chains? Or the barrier seal network I designed yesterday? All of that sounds. Iruka's voice faltered as the implication sank in. Wait, shadow clones? Naruto, that's a Jonin-level technique. Piece of cake for an Uzumaki. Naruto declared, hands already forming the seal. Watch! The courtyard filled with 20 perfect duplicates, each grinning with identical pride. See? They chorused, posing dramatically. Iruka stumbled backward, colliding with a decorative stone lantern. How? When did you? 3 days ago. Naruto answered casually, dispelling the clones with a wave. Takeo says it's because I have huge chakra reserves, way bigger than normal people. That's why I could never do regular clones. It's like trying to fill a teacup from a waterfall. The metaphor, borrowed from Takeo, rolled off his tongue with newfound confidence. That's... Iruka struggled to find words, pride and loss warring in his expression. That's incredible, Naruto. Want to see the chains too? They're harder, but I can manage about 10 links now before they dissolve. Before Iruka could respond, Akane appeared in the doorway, her crimson hair catching the sunlight. Iruka Yumino. She greeted him with formal courtesy. Please join us for tea. Naruto can demonstrate his progress afterward. Iruka straightened, his teacher's composure reasserting itself. Thank you for the invitation, Uzumaki-san. Inside, seated around the low table now cleared of scrolls, an uncomfortable silence stretched. Naruto glanced between his academy teacher and his newfound family, sensing undercurrents he couldn't quite interpret. So, Iruka finally ventured, setting his tea down with careful precision. Naruto tells me you've been teaching him clan techniques. Yes, Akane confirmed, her tone neutral but watchful. He has remarkable aptitude. I never had the right teachers before, Naruto blurted, immediately regretting the words when hurt flashed across Iruka's face. I mean, not that you weren't, it's just different, you know. Clan stuff seems to make more sense to me. It's in his blood, Takeo said, not unkindly but with unmistakable pride. Uzumaki techniques resonate with Uzumaki chakra in ways outsiders can't fully grasp. The word outsiders hung in the air, drawing a boundary that placed Iruka firmly on the other side. I see, Iruka said quietly, his fingers tightening around his teacup. And after graduation? What then? The question they'd all been dancing around crashed into the open like a boulder through rice paper. That's up to Naruto, Akane answered smoothly. We've made no demands. No explicit ones, perhaps, Iruka countered, diplomatic veneer slipping. But you're showing him a life, a heritage, a family he's never known. You must realize the pull that creates. Are you suggesting we shouldn't have come? Takeo's tone sharpened. That he was better off ignorant and alone. That's not what I'm right here, you know. Naruto interrupted, frustration boiling over. Stop talking about me like I'm not sitting 2 feet away. 3 surprised adult faces turned toward him. You're right. Iruka recovered first, genuine contrition in his voice. I apologize, Naruto. This is your life, your future we're discussing. And I haven't decided anything yet, Naruto insisted, crossing his arms defensively. So everyone can just calm down. A tense silence followed, broken when Iruka reached for the small package he'd brought. I nearly forgot, he said, offering it to Naruto. A graduation gift. Early, but... He shrugged, leaving the implication unspoken, in case you're not here for the actual ceremony. Naruto accepted the package with uncharacteristic gentleness, carefully unwrapping the simple brown paper. Inside lay a set of professional-grade kunai with cobalt blue wrappings on the handles. They're chakra conductive, Iruka explained as Naruto lifted one reverently. I thought, well, with your reserves, you could really make use of that feature. Iraka-sensei, Naruto breathed, turning the weapon to catch the light. These must have cost a fortune. Iraka's smile held a touch of sadness. Consider it an investment in Konoha's future Hokage. The words struck Naruto like a physical blow. Hokage. His dream, spoken back to him by someone who actually believed in it. His voice caught. Thank you? The adults exchanged glances, a complex silent communication passing between them. Perhaps, Akane suggested delicately, Iraka-sensei would like to see some of what you've learned this week. The diplomatic olive branch worked as intended. Naruto's face lit up, previous tension forgotten in his eagerness to show off his progress. Yeah! Come on, Iraka-sensei! He was already on his feet, practically dragging his teacher toward the door. Wait till you see what I can do now! Twilight painted Konoha in watercolor hues of lavender and gold, the last rays of sunlight catching on the carved faces of the Hokage monument. In the shadow of offices beneath the stone visages, Danzo Shimura stood at a window, hands clasped behind his back as he addressed three masked figures kneeling before him. Report, he commanded, voice cold and precise as a surgeon's blade. The central figure, mask stylized as a blank, emotionless face, spoke first. The Uzumaki compound is heavily sealed, Commander. Our surveillance techniques cannot penetrate beyond the outer perimeter. And the boy? Progressing rapidly in clan techniques. The latest observations show proficiency in shadow clones and beginning mastery of chakra chains. Danzo's visible eye narrowed fractionally. Accelerated development. As expected with proper training. The words carried no approval, only clinical assessment. And their conversations? Limited external communication. The right-hand figure reported, this one wearing a mask with feline features. They discuss clan history, techniques, the boy's mother. Nothing to suggest immediate plans for removing him from the village. Yet, Danzo added, turning from the window to face them fully. His bandaged face caught the fading light, throwing half his features into stark shadow. They are laying groundwork. Creating emotional ties, demonstrating power and belonging that Konoha has never provided him. Your orders, Commander? The third figure asked, mask resembling a bird of prey. Danzo was silent for a long moment, calculating variables with the precision of a master tactician. Continue surveillance. Identify weaknesses in their barrier seals. And the boy? He graduates tomorrow. Danzo's mouth curved in what might generously be called a smile. Should he pass, there will be opportunities to ensure his continued loyalty to Konoha alone. And should he fail? The cat-masked operative ventured. Then we will have a different sort of opportunity, Danzo replied, turning back to the window. One that might prove even more useful to our purposes. Understood, Commander. Remember, Danzo's voice hardened. The Jinchuriki is Konoha's greatest weapon. We cannot allow foreign elements, relatives or not, to claim him. The will of fire burns brightest when properly directed. The operatives bowed as one and vanished in near-silent puffs of smoke, leaving Danzo alone with his machinations and the deepening shadows. The training ground behind the Uzumaki compound lay devastated, earth churned and scorched, training posts splintered, patches of grass smoldering from expended chakra. At its center, Naruto stood panting, sweat pouring down his face as he maintained a complex seal formation with trembling fingers. Iraka watched from a safe distance, eyes wide with disbelief as golden chains erupted from Naruto's outstretched hands, whipping through the air with controlled precision to snare targets Takeo hurled from various directions. Maintain focus! Akane called from the sidelines. Don't let the pattern collapse! Naruto gritted his teeth, face contorted with effort as he directed the chains to form an intricate three-dimensional seal pattern in midair. The golden links wove together, forming a glowing matrix that pulsed with concentrated chakra. Now! Takeo shouted, hurling a final target, a specialized tag designed to simulate an offensive jutsu. The tag struck the center of Naruto's chain pattern and detonated in a flash of blue-white light. Instead of breaking through, the energy was caught in the matrix, channeled along the chain links, and redirected outward in a controlled burst that scorched a perfect circle in the earth 20 feet away. Uzumaki's sealing art, spiral redirection, Naruto declared, voice hoarse with effort. The chains dissipated, golden light fragmenting into motes that drifted away like fireflies in a summer breeze. Naruto dropped to one knee, gasping for breath but grinning fiercely. That was... Iruka struggled to find words adequate to the display he'd just witnessed. That was Jonin-level work, Naruto. Pretty cool, huh? Naruto panted, wobbling to his feet. Took me all week to get it right, but I finally nailed it. Takeo approached, offering a water canteen with unmistakable pride. A technique that usually takes years to master. Your progress is exceptional. Akane agreed, pride mingling with concern as she noted his depleted state. But you're pushing too hard. Your chakra may be vast, but it isn't limitless. I'm fine, Naruto protested, belying his words by nearly collapsing as he took a step forward. Iruka caught him reflexively, surprised by how light the boy felt despite his oversized personality. I think that's enough demonstrations for today. For once, Naruto didn't argue, allowing himself to be guided to a bench at the training ground's edge. The setting sun painted his exhausted face in gold, highlighting features Iruka suddenly realized were changing. Baby fat melting away, jaw firming, eyes holding a new depth of understanding that hadn't been there a week ago. Not just physically stronger, Iruka realized with a pang. Growing up. Finding himself. You've accomplished more in a week than many shinobi do in years, Iruka said softly, settling beside him. I'm proud of you, Naruto. The simple words hit with unexpected force. Naruto ducked his head, suddenly interested in the dirt beneath his sandals. Thanks, sensei. But I have to ask. Iruka hesitated, choosing his words carefully. Is this what you want? All of this? Naruto looked up, confusion furrowing his brow. What do you mean? Of course it is. I'm learning awesome techniques and finding out about my mom and... That's not what I'm asking. Iruka interrupted gently. After graduation, if they asked you to leave with them, to help rebuild their clan elsewhere. Is that what you want? The question landed with the weight of a mountain. Naruto fell silent, genuinely contemplating rather than responding with his usual impulsive enthusiasm. I don't know, he admitted finally, voice small. I've always wanted a family. And they're really my family, Iruka-sensei. They knew my mom. They understand stuff about me that nobody in Konoha ever did. The pain of those words struck Iruka like physical blows. But I've always wanted to be Hokage too. Naruto continued, staring at his hands that had just wielded power beyond his years. To make everyone acknowledge me. And now I find out I belong to this awesome clan with all these cool techniques and history, but they're not really part of Konoha anymore. He looked up, blue eyes troubled. What if I can't have both? Iruka had no answer, only a teacher's compassion for a student facing impossible choices. He rested a hand on Naruto's shoulder, offering silent support. Across the training ground, Akane and Takeo observed the exchange with complex emotions. He's torn, Akane murmured, low enough that only Takeo could hear. As we knew he would be. He has connections here, Takeo acknowledged. The teacher, especially. And dreams that can only be fulfilled in Konoha. Perhaps, Takeo suggested. We need not force an either/or choice. Akane's eyebrows rose in surprise. You think Kazashi would agree to that? I think, Takeo replied, watching Naruto's animated gestures as he demonstrated something to Iruka. That we need to consider what's best for him, not just what's best for the clan. A contemplative silence fell between them, broken when Kazashi himself emerged from the compound, his severe presence drawing all eyes. Naruto, he called, voice carrying across the training ground. A word. The boy scrambled to his feet, fatigue forgotten as he jogged toward the clan elder. Iruka followed more slowly, wariness evident in his posture. You've progressed well this week, Kazashi stated without preamble. Tomorrow you return to your academy for graduation. Naruto nodded, suddenly solemn. Yes, Elder. The formal address, adopted over the past week, brought a ghost of approval to Kazashi's stern features. You will face a test of basic ninja techniques. Techniques that, as we've established, are poorly suited to your Uzumaki chakra nature. Concern flashed across Naruto's face. The clone jutsu. I still can't do it right, even after everything I've learned. No, Kazashi agreed. And you needn't waste effort trying. What you've mastered this week is far beyond academy level. From within his robes, he produced a small scroll sealed with the Uzumaki spiral. This contains instructions for adapting your shadow clone technique to consume less chakra for the purposes of the examination. A workaround, Takeo translated, joining them. Not standard procedure, but legitimate. Irika frowned. The test requires specific techniques. The test, Kazashi interrupted coldly, was designed for students with average chakra capacity and no bloodline limitations. Would you fail an Aburain for using insects instead of standard techniques? An Inuzuka for relying on canine partnerships? The Uzumaki equivalent is mastery of sealing arts and high chakra techniques. Naruto has demonstrated mastery beyond his years. Akane added, her tone gentler but equally firm. Surely that counts for more than forcing square pegs into round holes? Irika looked torn, professional standards warring with what he'd witnessed of Naruto's true capabilities. I don't want special treatment, Naruto declared suddenly, surprising them all. I'll pass the test the regular way or not at all. Kazashi's eyebrows rose a fraction. You would handicap yourself unnecessarily? When alternatives exist? It's not about easy or hard, Naruto insisted, chin lifting with familiar stubbornness. It's about proving I can do it, just like everyone else. That's what being a shinobi of Konoha means. Something flickered in Kazashi's eyes, not disapproval, but a more complex emotion. Pride, perhaps, tempered with concern. Very well, he conceded, tucking the scroll away. You will face your examination on standard terms. But know this. His voice softened imperceptibly. Whatever the outcome, you have proven yourself worthy of the Uzumaki name this week. The simple acknowledgement meant more than any technique mastered. Naruto stood taller, shoulders straightening under the weight of heritage and expectation. Thanks, he said simply. For everything. An awkward silence fell, broken by Takeo clapping his hands together. Well, since tomorrow is the big day, I suggest one last Uzumaki family dinner tonight. Irika-sensei, you're welcome to join us, of course. The invitation, clearly an olive branch, drew a small smile from the academy teacher. I'd be honored. As they turned toward the compound, Naruto hung back, tugging at Kazashi's sleeve. Elder? Could I have an hour to myself? There's somewhere I want to go before dinner. Kazashi studied him for a long moment, understanding dawning in his weathered features. Of course. We will expect you when we see you. Naruto nodded gratefully and took off at a run, boundless energy seemingly restored by some internal wellspring of determination. Twilight deepened into true dusk as Naruto scaled the steep path to the top of the Hokage monument. The village sprawled below him, lights beginning to twinkle on like earthbound stars as families returned home and shops prepared for evening business. He settled cross-legged atop the fourth Hokage's stone head, his favorite spot for years, though he couldn't have explained why if asked. The irony of his unconscious choice struck him now, with newfound knowledge of his heritage. The evening breeze ruffled his hair as he gazed out over Konoha, the village that had shunned him and shaped him in equal measure. Down there were the places that defined his existence, the academy where he'd struggled and failed and persisted, Ichiraku's where Tuchi and Ayam had shown him the first real kindness he could remember, the Hokage Tower where the old man had offered grandfatherly wisdom, the lonely apartment where he'd taught himself to survive. And now, nestled in an unassuming side street, hidden behind seals most villagers would never notice, the Uzumaki compound, his first taste of family, of belonging, of heritage. What do I do? He asked the darkening sky, voice small against the vastness. What would you do, Mom? No answer came but the whispering wind and distant sounds of village life continuing below. Naruto closed his eyes, turning inward to the vast ocean of chakra that had become increasingly familiar over the past week. Without conscious decision, his hands formed the seal Takeo had taught him, not a ninja hand sign but an Uzumaki meditation form designed to center and clarify. His chakra responded, swirling in controlled patterns rather than its usual tumultuous flood. Within that momentary clarity, he sensed something else, a presence ancient and malevolent, watching from behind the seal that contained it. The Nine Tails. Always there, always aware, separated by a barrier as thin as paper and as strong as his mother's final act of love. "I'll figure it out," Naruto promised, speaking to his mother's memory, to the village below, to the creature within him, to himself. "I'll find a way to be Naruto Uzumaki of Konoha and Naruto Uzumaki of the Spiral Seal. Believe it!" The declaration hung in the night air, not just bravado but genuine resolve. Whatever tomorrow's test brought, whatever choices lay ahead, he would face them as himself, no longer an orphan pretending confidence to mask loneliness, but the son of Kushina Uzumaki, heir to a legacy of sealing mastery and indomitable spirit. The stars emerged overhead as Naruto sat unmoving, silhouetted against the last indigo streaks of twilight, a small figure perched between earth and sky, past and future, divided loyalties that he was determined, somehow, to reconcile. Below, unseen in the gathering darkness, three figures watched from different vantage points: Danzo Shimura calculating threats and opportunities, Irika Yumino worrying over a student teetering on the brink of adulthood, and Kazashi Uzumaki remembering another stubborn child with Uzumaki fire in her veins, who had also refused to choose between duty and heritage. Konoha slept, unaware that the choices of one boy might reshape the destiny of nations. Chapter 6, The Test. Dawn spilled across Konoha like liquid gold, fingers of light stretching between buildings to illuminate the Uzumaki compound where Naruto stood in the center courtyard. Sweat gleamed on his forehead despite the early morning chill, his breath puffing in small clouds as he held a complex hand position. 50 shadow clones surrounded him in concentric circles, each attempting the same basic academy jutsu, the simple clone technique that had been his nemesis for years. "Focus!" Kazashi's voice cut through the morning air, sharp as a blade. "You're still using 10 times the necessary chakra." "I'm trying!" Naruto and 50 duplicates shot back in frustrated unison. Their voices echoed off the compound walls, startling birds from nearby trees. Akane circled the formation, her crimson hair catching fire in the sunrise as she studied his chakra flow with narrowed eyes. "Imagine a faucet nearly shut, just a trickle coming through. Right now you're blasting it wide open." "That's what I've been doing." Naruto's face scrunched with concentration, the whisker marks on his cheeks deepening as he strained. 50 puffs of smoke erupted simultaneously as his clones attempted the jutsu. When the haze cleared, it revealed 50 malformed, sickly-looking imitations sprawled across the courtyard in various states of distortion. Some were pale as ghosts, others had limbs missing, still others appeared half-melted like candles left in the sun. "Arf!" Naruto released his chakra control with an explosive gesture of frustration. The shadow clones vanished in a massive cloud that momentarily engulfed the courtyard. "This is impossible," he declared when the smoke cleared, dropping cross-legged onto the stone tiles with a thud. "I've mastered chakra chains, barrier seals, and explosive matrix arrays, but I can't make one stupid regular clone." Takeo emerged from the main building, balancing a tray of steaming teacups. "The graduation exam is in 6 hours," he observed, setting the tray down on a nearby stone bench. "Perhaps it's time for strategy rather than brute force." "What strategy?" Naruto demanded, grabbing a cup and gulping the hot liquid despite its temperature. "Either pass the clone test or I fail." Again. Kazashi and Akane exchanged significant glances over Naruto's bowed head. "There are alternatives," Kazashi began carefully. "No." Naruto's head snapped up, blue eyes blazing with stubborn determination. "No special treatment, remember? I pass like everyone else or not at all." Takeo crouched beside him, voice dropping conspiratorially. Consider this, cousin. Your chakra is like a raging river trying to fill a teacup. What if, instead of trying to hold back the river, you found a way to split it? Naruto's brow furrowed. What do you mean? Shadow clones divide your chakra equally among duplicates, Takeo explained, sketching quick seal patterns in the air with glowing fingertips. What if you created just one shadow clone with half your chakra, then had that clone attempt the regular clone jutsu? Naruto's eyes widened as understanding dawned. It would have less chakra to control. Precisely. Akane nodded approvingly. Not technically against the rules, just a clever workaround for your particular abundance. That's... Naruto scrambled to his feet, excitement building. That's genius! It's basic seal theory, Kazashi corrected, though the ghost of approval haunted his stern features. Division of energy to achieve appropriate concentration. Naruto was already forming the shadow clone seal, face set with renewed determination. A single duplicate materialized beside him, perfect down to the last spiky hair. All right, other me. Naruto grinned at his copy. Let's try this. The shadow clone formed the hand signs for the basic clone jutsu, face scrunched in concentration. A small puff of smoke erupted, clearing to reveal a passable, though still slightly washed out, illusory clone. It worked! Naruto and his shadow clone exclaimed simultaneously, high-fiving with enough enthusiasm to dispel the regular clone in a wisp of chakra smoke. Not perfect, Akane assessed critically, but passable for academy standards. Keep practicing, Kazashi instructed, rising gracefully despite his age. The execution must be flawless under pressure. The morning progressed in 2-hour bursts of frantic practice, punctuated by brief meditation sessions that Naruto endured with poorly concealed impatience. By mid-morning, his shadow clone could consistently produce 2 regular clones that would pass inspection if not examined too closely. It'll have to do, Takeo declared finally, checking the position of the sun. You need to conserve chakra for the actual exam. Naruto dispelled his final practice clone, the accumulated fatigue of hours of concentration settling over him like a heavy cloak. What if it's not enough? What if I mess up again? Then you try again next time, Akane said simply, gathering the empty teacups. Uzumaki are defined by perseverance, not perfection. But, Naruto began, only to be cut off by Kazashi's raised hand. Enough doubt, the elder declared. You carry the blood of clan heads and seal masters. Act accordingly. The blunt statement straightened Naruto's spine more effectively than any encouragement. He nodded once, shoulders squaring under the weight of his heritage. I should get to the academy early, he decided. Want to review the written portion too? A wise precaution, Kazashi approved. We will await your return, successful or otherwise. The simple acceptance, that they would be there regardless of outcome, struck Naruto with unexpected force. Throughout his life, approval had always been conditional, always tethered to achievement. The novel concept of family waiting despite failure left him momentarily speechless. Right, he managed finally, voice rough with suppressed emotion. I'll see you after. The academy corridors buzzed with pre-examination energy. Students clustered in nervous groups as they quizzed each other on potential test questions. Conversation stuttered to awkward halts as Naruto passed, whispers following in his wake like disturbed leaves. That's him. Living with those redheads. Heard they're actually his clan. No way dead last has a bloodline. Naruto pretended not to hear, chin lifted with newfound confidence that wasn't entirely an act. The past week had transformed him in ways beyond technique. Knowledge of family, of heritage, of purpose had aligned something fundamental in his character. He slid into his usual seat just as Irika entered the classroom, arms laden with examination papers. Their eyes met briefly, something complicated passing between them, encouragement from the teacher, determination from the student, and beneath it all, the unspoken question of what came after today. Settle down, everyone, Irika called over the nervous chatter. We'll begin the written portion in 5 minutes. A shadow fell across Naruto's desk. He looked up to find Mizuki-sensei smiling down at him with that particular expression that never quite reached his eyes. Naruto! The assistant teacher's voice dripped false warmth. May I have a word outside? Puzzled, Naruto followed him into the hallway, hyper-aware of curious gazes tracking their exit. I heard about your family situation, Mizuki began once they were alone, voice pitched with practiced concern. Quite a surprise, finding relatives after all these years. Yeah, Naruto agreed cautiously, something in Mizuki's tone setting off warning bells he wouldn't have recognized a week ago. It's been pretty awesome. And they've been teaching you techniques, I understand? Mizuki leaned closer, voice dropping conspiratorially. Special Uzumaki jutsu? Naruto shifted uncomfortably. Some basic stuff, yeah? Impressive. Mizuki nodded, eyes calculating beneath his friendly expression. But I worry about the exam. Traditional clone techniques are still required, regardless of special circumstances. I've been practicing, Naruto replied, guard rising further at Mizuki's overfamiliar tone. Of course. Mizuki waved dismissively. But there are alternatives, you know. Ways to demonstrate your skills beyond the standard test. What do you mean? Mizuki's voice dropped further, forcing Naruto to lean in. There's a special makeup test for exceptional cases. Students with clan abilities sometimes qualify for alternative assessment. Really? Naruto's eyebrows shot up, suspicion warring with desperate hope. I've never heard about that. It's not widely advertised, Mizuki explained smoothly. Wouldn't want everyone trying to circumvent standard procedures. But given your unique situation, he trailed off suggestively. What kind of test? Naruto asked, caution tempering his curiosity. Mizuki smiled, satisfaction glinting behind his eyes. We'll discuss the details after the regular exam. Just keep it in mind as a backup plan. Naruto! Mizuki! Iruka's voice called from the classroom doorway. We're starting. Coming! Naruto called back, giving Mizuki a final appraising look before returning to the classroom, unease crawling along his spine like insects. The written exam blurred by in a haze of questions about ninja code, tactical scenarios, and chakra theory. Naruto's brush moved with surprising confidence across the paper, weeks of intense Uzumaki instruction filtering through his usually scattered thought processes. Where once he would have panicked at theoretical questions, he now found himself applying principles Takeo had drilled into him through endless practical demonstrations. When Iruka called time, Naruto surveyed his completed exam with cautious optimism. Not perfect. Several questions remained half-answered or crossed out, but far better than his previous attempts. Now for the practical portion, Iruka announced, gathering the written papers. You'll be called individually into the next room for assessment. When your name is called, please bring your ninja tools and be prepared to demonstrate the 3 basic academy techniques: transformation, substitution, and clone jutsu. A collective groan rippled through the classroom at the mention of clone jutsu, though the dismay was notably absent from top students like Sasuke, who merely looked bored by the whole proceedings. Aburaim Shino, Iruka called, consulting his clipboard. You're first. Students disappeared one by one into the examination room, emerging either with triumphant grins and shiny new headbands or crushed expressions that told the story without words. The classroom gradually emptied as Naruto's anxiety ratcheted higher with each passing minute. A shadow fell across his desk again, not Mizuki this time, but Sasuke Uchiha, pausing on his way to the examination room. The dark-haired boy regarded Naruto with inscrutable eyes for a long moment. Don't embarrass yourself, loser, he said finally, the words carrying none of their usual venom. Naruto blinked, momentarily thrown by what almost sounded like encouragement wrapped in their familiar rivalry. You worry about yourself, bastard. The corner of Sasuke's mouth twitched, not quite a smile, but something less guarded than his usual frozen expression. He continued toward the door without another word, hands buried in his pockets with practiced nonchalance. Uchiha Sasuke, Iruka's voice called from the examination room. Sasuke disappeared through the doorway, leaving Naruto alone with his thoughts and the ticking clock on the classroom wall. Minutes stretched like hours as he ran through Takeo's instructions in his mind, rehearsing the chakra control exercises that had consumed his past week. Finally, the door opened, and Sasuke emerged with a new headband tied across his forehead, expression carefully neutral despite the achievement. "Uzumaki Naruto," Iruka called, his voice betraying nothing of his personal investment in the outcome. Naruto rose on legs that suddenly felt like rubber, hands clenched to hide their trembling. He crossed the classroom in what seemed like slow motion, hyper-aware of his heartbeat thundering in his ears. The examination room was smaller than he remembered, 2 tables pushed together to form a makeshift desk where Iruka and Mizuki sat with evaluation sheets. A simple open space stood before them, awaiting his demonstration. "Naruto," Iruka began formally, though his eyes held genuine concern. "Please perform the 3 basic jutsu in any order you prefer." Naruto nodded, throat suddenly dry as desert sand. "Transformation first." He formed the hand signs with careful precision, visualizing his target, the 3rd Hokage, down to the wrinkles at the corners of his eyes and the weathered hands that had occasionally ruffled Naruto's hair in rare moments of grandfatherly affection. Chakra surged through his pathways, but instead of his usual flood, he channeled it as Akane had taught him, not fighting against his natural abundance but guiding it like a river diverted through carefully constructed channels. Smoke engulfed him briefly, clearing to reveal a perfect duplicate of Hiruzen Sarutobi, pipe and all. "Excellent transformation," Iruka noted, making a mark on his evaluation sheet. "Substitution next?" Naruto released the transformation and moved to the center of the room. Scanning for an appropriate target, he spotted a practice dummy in the corner. His hands flashed through signs, and with a puff of smoke, he swapped places with the dummy, appearing across the room while it materialized where he had stood. "Good control on the substitution," Iruka commented, unable to completely hide his pride. "And finally, the clone jutsu. The moment of truth." Naruto walked back to the center of the room, wiping sweaty palms against his pants. He took a deep breath, centering himself as Kazashi had taught him. "Clone jutsu," he announced, but instead of forming the traditional hand signs, he created the shadow clone seal first. Mizuki's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "What are you?" A single shadow clone materialized beside Naruto, solid and substantial rather than the illusory duplicates expected from the basic technique. Before either examiner could comment, the shadow clone formed the traditional clone jutsu signs. 2 puffs of smoke erupted beside the shadow clone, clearing to reveal a pair of passable illusion clones flanking it. Not perfect, slightly paler than they should be, with minor detail inconsistencies, but recognizable copies nonetheless. "What's this?" Mizuki demanded, leaning forward with barely concealed anger. "That's not the standard clone technique. The shadow clone is a B-rank technique," Iruka observed, surprise evident in his voice. "Far more difficult than the standard clone jutsu. But not the required technique," Mizuki insisted. "The test specifically calls for basic clone jutsu." "Which was performed," Iruka countered, pointing to the 2 illusory clones flanking Naruto's shadow duplicate. "The shadow clone merely acted as a chakra management technique. It's a loophole." Mizuki's voice rose, drawing curious glances from students waiting outside. "It's innovative problem solving," Iruka argued, turning to Naruto. "Can you explain your approach?" Naruto dispelled the illusory clones with a wave, leaving just his shadow clone standing beside him. "My chakra reserves are too large for the basic clone jutsu," he explained, the technical language flowing more naturally after a week of Uzumaki instruction. "By creating a shadow clone first, I divided my chakra in half, making it easier to control the precise amount needed for regular clones." Iruka's eyebrows rose appreciatively. "A clever solution to a legitimate chakra control challenge." "It's manipulation of the test parameters," Mizuki insisted, face flushing with anger he couldn't entirely disguise as professional concern. "It's adaptation," Iruka countered firmly. "Something every shinobi must master." The purpose of the clone technique is to create duplicates for tactical advantage. Naruto has demonstrated that ability beyond the minimum requirements. A tense silence fell between the two teachers, crackling with unspoken conflict that extended beyond this single examination. Fine. Mizuki relented finally, his smile returning with visible effort. I suppose we can allow it. This time. Iruka made a final mark on his evaluation sheet, then looked up with a genuine smile that crinkled the scar across his nose. Congratulations, Naruto. You pass. The words hit like summer lightning, electrifying, momentarily stunning, then flooding him with exhilarating warmth. Naruto stood frozen, unable to process the simple declaration that had eluded him for so long. I passed? He repeated, voice small with disbelief. You pass, Iruka confirmed, standing to retrieve a headband from the box beside him. The metal plate gleamed in the afternoon light, the Konoha leaf symbol etched deep into its surface. You've earned this. Naruto accepted the headband with trembling hands, the fabric cool against his fingers, the metal plate heavier than he'd imagined. He stared at it, transfixed by the tangible symbol of everything he'd fought for. Thank you, he whispered, the simple words inadequate for the emotion swelling in his chest. Don't thank me, Iruka replied softly. You did the work. Indeed, Mizuki interjected, his voice honey-sweet but eyes cold as winter. Quite the remarkable transformation in just 1 week. Almost unbelievable. The implied accusation slid past Naruto, unable to penetrate the bubble of pure joy surrounding him. He tied the headband across his forehead, the weight unfamiliar but somehow right, like a missing piece finally clicking into place. I'm a ninja, he breathed, the words carrying the weight of a dream crystallized into reality. A genin, Iruka corrected gently. Your journey is just beginning. Naruto nodded, overwhelming gratitude rendering him uncharacteristically speechless. He bowed formally to both teachers, a gesture of respect Kazashi had drilled into him over the past week, then turned toward the door, legs moving on autopilot. Naruto, Mizuki called as his hand touched the doorknob. Remember our conversation. There's still the special assessment to consider. For extra credit. Iruka's head snapped toward his fellow teacher, confusion evident in his expression. What special assessment? Just a supplementary option, Mizuki explained smoothly. For students with unique aptitudes. I'll brief you later. Naruto hesitated, suspicion crystallizing into certainty. Whatever Mizuki was planning, it had nothing to do with legitimate testing. I'll think about it, he replied noncommittally, filing the exchange away for future consideration. The corridor outside erupted with excited chatter as newly minted genin compared headbands and discussed potential team assignments. Naruto moved through them in a daze, touched occasionally by congratulatory pats from classmates who never acknowledged him before. You actually did it, Shikamaru drawled as Naruto passed, genuine surprise breaking through his perpetual boredom. Troublesome. Now I'll have to recalculate all my team placement predictions. Believe it! Naruto grinned, the familiar phrase carrying new weight behind it. He burst through the academy doors into blinding afternoon sunlight, scanning the schoolyard crowded with proud families embracing their graduating children. For a moment, old pain lanced through him at the familiar sight of everyone else's happiness. Then his eyes caught a flash of crimson hair by the swing he'd often occupied alone. Takeo leaned against the tree, arms crossed, eyebrows raised in silent question as Naruto emerged. Behind him stood Akane and Kazashi, their presence drawing curious stares from village parents unaccustomed to seeing the village pariah with family. Naruto's hand rose to his headband, tapping it once in wordless confirmation. Takeo's face split in a grin that mirrored Naruto's own, while Akane clasped her hands together in visible relief. Even Kazashi unbent enough to nod once, approval evident despite his reserved demeanor. Naruto crossed the yard in 3 running steps, launching himself at his newfound family with unrestrained enthusiasm. Takeo caught him in a spinning embrace, laughing aloud at his exuberance. I knew you could do it, Akane declared, ruffling his hair once Takeo set him down. The headband suits you. Kazashi observed, the simple statement weighted with significance. Your mother would be proud. The words struck deeper than any praise Naruto had ever received, piercing straight to the core of the lonely child who'd spent years pretending indifference to the families all around him. Thanks for helping me, he managed, voice rough with emotion. I couldn't have done it without you guys. Nonsense. Kazashi dismissed the gratitude with a wave. We merely accelerated what was already within you. This calls for celebration, Takeo announced, slinging an arm around Naruto's shoulders. I believe ramen was mentioned as a traditional victory meal? Ichiraku's, Naruto confirmed, bouncing on his toes with renewed energy. Old man Tucci makes the best ramen in Fire Country. Lead the way, shinobi of Konoha. Akane smiled, the formal address sending a fresh wave of pride through Naruto's chest. They turned to leave, only to find their path blocked by a small figure in formal robes. Naruto! The third Hokage greeted him, piped smoke curling around his weathered face. I see congratulations are in order. Old man! Naruto exclaimed, momentarily forgetting protocol in his excitement. I mean, Lord Hokage! I passed. So I observe. Hiruzen's eyes crinkled with genuine warmth. Might I borrow you for a moment? There are matters we should discuss before tomorrow's team assignments. The request, phrased as a gentle suggestion, carried the undeniable weight of command. Naruto glanced at his Uzumaki relatives, uncertainty flickering across his features. We'll secure a table at Ichiraku's, Kazashi declared, recognizing the Hokage's authority with a formal nod. Join us when you've concluded your business. It won't take long, Hiruzen promised, turning toward the tower that dominated Konoha's skyline. Naruto fell into step beside him, new headband catching the late afternoon sunlight as they wound through village streets. Civilians and ninja alike bowed respectfully to the Hokage, their gazes sliding curiously between the village leader and the container of the Ninetales now proudly wearing a genin headband. I received Irika's report, Hiruzen commented as they climbed the tower stairs. Creative solution to the clone jutsu challenge. Naruto ducked his head, caught between pride and embarrassment. It wasn't cheating. Just working with what I've got. Indeed. Hiruzen's voice carried approval tinged with something more complex. A trait your mother possessed in abundance. They reached the Hokage's office, Hiruzen dismissing the ANBU guards with a subtle gesture before closing the door behind them. Afternoon light streamed through wide windows, illuminating the space where Naruto had first met his Uzumaki relatives just 7 days earlier. Hiruzen settled behind his desk, suddenly looking every one of his 70 years. You've changed, Naruto, he observed quietly. More than just new techniques or knowledge. Naruto shifted uncomfortably under the perceptive gaze. I found out who I am, he replied simply. Where I come from. Part of who you are, Hiruzen corrected gently. There is more to your heritage than the Uzumaki clan alone. Naruto leaned forward, hunger for knowledge evident in his posture. My father. They won't tell me about him. For good reason. Hiruzen sighed, smoke wreathing his head like storm clouds. Your father had powerful enemies, Naruto. Enemies who would not hesitate to strike at his son. I'm a ninja now, Naruto argued, tapping his headband for emphasis. I can protect myself. A genin, Hiruzen reminded him with gentle firmness. Freshly graduated today. Your father's enemies include S-rank missing nin and hostile foreign powers. Frustration bubbled through Naruto's newfound composure. So what? I never get to know. That's not fair. When you reach Chunin, Hiruzen offered unexpectedly. Master your techniques, prove your discretion, advance to Chunin rank, and I will tell you everything. The concrete promise, with specific conditions rather than vague somedays, stunned Naruto into momentary silence. Everything? He pressed, testing the boundaries of this unprecedented offer. Who he was, what he did, why. His voice caught. Why he sealed the Ninetales in me. Pain flashed across Hiruzen's weathered features. Yes, he confirmed quietly. Though some answers may not bring the comfort you seek. Naruto absorbed this, mind racing with implications. Chunin, he repeated, the goal settling into his consciousness with crystalline clarity. I'll do it. Believe it. Hiruzen nodded, acknowledging the determination behind the characteristic phrase. There's one more matter we must address, he continued, expression growing grave. Your living arrangements. The simple statement carried the weight of choices yet unmade. Naruto tensed instinctively. The Uzumaki have established a permanent compound within Konoha, Hiruzen explained, watching Naruto's reactions carefully. They have requested permission to remain indefinitely, to rebuild a small clan presence within the village. Hope surged through Naruto's chest. They're staying? If that is their choice, Hiruzen confirmed. And yours? Mine? You stand at a crossroads, Naruto. Hiruzen leaned forward, fingers steepled before him. Newly graduated, newly connected to your clan heritage. The question before you is simple but profound. Where do you belong? The question struck with unexpected force, crystallizing the nebulous anxiety that had haunted Naruto throughout the week of discoveries. Can I belong in both places? He asked, vulnerability leaking through his usual bravado. Be a shinobi of Konoha and an Uzumaki? That path is rarely easy, Hiruzen cautioned. Divided loyalties create divided hearts. It's not divided, Naruto insisted, a new certainty hardening in his voice. It's just bigger. More complete. Hiruzen studied him for a long moment, something like approval kindling in his aged eyes. Perhaps you're wiser than your years would suggest. I want to stay in Konoha, Naruto declared, the words rushing out as if afraid they might escape his grasp if held too long. I want to be Hokage someday. But I want to know my family too, learn about Mom, master Uzumaki techniques. And if those desires eventually conflict? Hiruzen pressed gently. Naruto squared his shoulders, blue eyes fierce with determination. Then I'll find a way to make them work together. That's my ninja way. A smile broke across Hiruzen's face like sunrise after a long night. Your mother said something remarkably similar, once upon a time. He rose from his chair, coming around the desk to stand before Naruto. Very well. I will notify the housing authority that you'll be relocating to the Uzumaki compound permanently, if that is your wish. It is, Naruto confirmed, certainty settling into his bones like the weight of his new headband. Unfamiliar but undeniably right. One final thing, Hiruzen added, reaching into his robes to withdraw a small, worn envelope. I've held this for many years, waiting for the right moment. Naruto accepted the envelope with curious hands. The paper had yellowed with age, the seal broken long ago. Inside, he found a single photograph, faded but still clear. A young woman with vibrant red hair and a mischievous smile stood beside a tall blonde man whose features struck Naruto with bone-deep recognition. Mom, he breathed, finger hovering over her image. And your parents, Hiruzen confirmed softly. On their wedding day. The only copy in existence. Naruto stared transfixed at the blonde man, his father, noting with shock the similarities in their features, the same jaw, the same eyes, the same spiky hair. He looks like me, he whispered, the simple observation carrying the weight of identity finally anchored. Indeed, Hiruzen agreed, resting a weathered hand on Naruto's shoulder. Remember my promise. Chunin rank, and you'll learn everything. Naruto nodded, carefully returning the precious photograph to its envelope and tucking it securely in his inner pocket. Thank you, he said, the words inadequate for the gift he'd been given, not just a photo, but the glimpse of a future where all his questions might finally be answered. No, Hiruzen smiled, his formal demeanor softening. I believe your family is waiting to celebrate your graduation. Family? The words still sent a thrill of disbelief and joy through Naruto's chest. He nodded, bowing formally before turning toward the door. Naruto, Hiruzen called as his hand touched the doorknob. I'm proud of you. The simple declaration, from the man who had been his closest thing to family for 12 lonely years, brought a lump to Naruto's throat. He nodded once, unable to trust his voice, then slipped through the door into the gathering evening. Night had fallen by the time Naruto returned to the Uzumaki compound, stomach full of celebratory ramen and head buzzing with the day's events. The barrier seals shimmered briefly as he passed through them, recognizing his chakra signature with a welcoming pulse of warmth. Inside, the main room glowed with soft lamplight. Scrolls and sealing equipment cleared away to create a gathering space where Takeo, Akane, and Kazashi sat in conversation. "The conquering hero returns," Takeo grinned, raising a cup in salute. "How was your meeting with the Hokage?" Naruto hesitated in the doorway, the weight of decisions made and unmade pressing on his shoulders. The envelope containing his parents' photographs seemed to burn against his chest, a tangible reminder of secrets still kept and truths still hidden. "He said you're staying," he blurted, the question he hadn't dared ask surfacing without preamble. "In Konoha." "For good." The three Uzumaki exchanged glances, something unspoken passing between them. "If that is what you wish," Kazashi replied carefully. "We came for you, Naruto. Where you choose to build your future, we will establish our present." The simple declaration, an adult rearranging their life around a child's needs rather than the reverse, struck Naruto with physical force. He'd spent his entire existence accommodating others, making himself smaller, less troublesome, fighting for scraps of attention. The concept of being the central consideration in anyone's life plan was so foreign it left him momentarily speechless. "I want to stay in Konoha," he managed finally. "I'm going to be Hokage someday. But I want—" He swallowed hard, vulnerability raw in his voice. "I want you to stay too. All of you. I want to learn everything about the Uzumaki, about Mom, about our techniques." "Then that is what shall be," Kazashi declared, the formal words carrying the weight of clan law. The Uzumaki returned to Konoha, one branch at a time. "Starting with us," Akane smiled, rising to embrace Naruto. "This compound will be your home for as long as you wish it. We'll begin arrangements with the Hokage tomorrow," Takeo added, stretching lazily. "Formal recognition of Uzumaki residency, property rights, participation in village affairs. Political headaches," Kazashi muttered, though without real heat. "The price of legitimacy." Naruto stood in the center of the room, the center of attention, the center of plans being made and futures being shaped, feeling simultaneously enormous and infinitesimal. A week ago, he'd been an orphan preparing to fail his graduation exam for the third time. Now he stood a genin of Konoha, heir to a legendary clan, surrounded by family making plans that revolved around his happiness. "I don't know what to say," he admitted, the uncharacteristic honesty revealing the depth of his emotion. "You needn't say anything," Kazashi replied, rising with the fluid grace that belied his years. "Actions speak louder than words. Your choice to embrace both identities, Konoha shinobi and Uzumaki heir, speaks volumes." "Though speaking of actions," Takeo interjected, expression growing serious, "there's something we should discuss before tomorrow's team assignments." "What's that?" Naruto asked, dropping cross-legged onto a cushion with casual familiarity that would have been unthinkable a week earlier. "Your academy teacher's counterpart," Akane explained, her usual warmth cooled by evident concern. "Mizuki. His behavior during your examination was troubling." Naruto's expression darkened at the mention of the silver-haired Chunin. "Yeah. He tried to convince me there was some special extra credit test I could take. Seemed really upset when I passed the regular way." Kazashi's eyes narrowed dangerously. "What sort of test?" "He didn't say exactly." Naruto shrugged. "Just that we'd talk about it after the exam. I was gonna ask Irika-sensei about it tomorrow." "Don't," Takeo advised sharply. "Something feels wrong about this." "Agreed," Kazashi nodded, fingers tracing unconscious seal patterns on the table's edge. "No legitimate examination is offered in such a secretive manner. What do you think he's planning?" Naruto asked, unease crawling along his spine as he recalled Mizuki's too friendly smile and cold eyes. "Nothing beneficial to you," Akane stated flatly. "The question is whether his intentions threaten you specifically or Konoha more broadly." A heavy silence fell as they considered the implications. I could pretend to go along with it, Naruto suggested suddenly. Find out what he's really up to. Absolutely not, Akane and Takeo chorused immediately. The risk is unacceptable, Kazashi elaborated, his stern voice brooking no argument. You are a genin as of today, but Mizuki is a chunin with years of experience. Whatever deception he plans, you are not equipped to counter it alone. But, Naruto began to protest. No. Kazashi's hand slammed onto the table with unexpected force, activating a silencing seal that briefly muffled all sound in the room. We did not find you after 12 years only to lose you to foolish heroics. The blunt statement, edged with genuine concern rather than mere authority, silenced Naruto more effectively than any command could have. We'll inform the Hokage of your conversation with Mizuki, Akane decided, her tone gentler but equally firm. Let Konoha's authorities handle whatever plot is unfolding. But what if he tries something tonight? Naruto pressed. Before we can warn anyone. Takeo's expression hardened into something cold and dangerous, at odds with his usual easygoing demeanor. Then he'll discover that the Uzumaki compound is very well protected indeed. As if in response to his words, the barrier seals surrounding the property pulsed once with visible energy, their intricate patterns briefly illuminating like veins of blue fire running through the walls and floors. Wow! Naruto breathed, momentarily distracted from concerns about Mizuki. Are those defensive seals? Among other things, Kazashi confirmed with grim satisfaction. Our clan did not survive near extinction by leaving security to chance. The conversation shifted to technical discussions of compound protections, Takeo explaining the barrier mechanics while Akane sketched activation sequences with glowing fingertips. Naruto absorbed it all with his usual enthusiasm, concerns about Mizuki temporarily overshadowed by the fascination of new techniques. Hours later, as midnight approached and yawns punctuated the conversation with increasing frequency, Kazashi finally called a halt to the impromptu lesson. Sleep, he commanded, rising from his cushion with subtle stiffness. Tomorrow brings team assignments and the beginning of your formal ninja career. I'm too excited to sleep, Naruto protested, though the claim was undermined by another jaw-cracking yawn. Try anyway, Akane suggested, ruffling his hair as she passed. Uzumaki or not, even your energy has limits. Naruto reluctantly retreated to his room, a real bedroom, not the shabby studio apartment he'd occupied for as long as he could remember. The space had transformed during the week, personal touches accumulating with each passing day, scrolls of seal theory stacked neatly beside practice materials, a potted plant rescued from his old apartment, the few photographs and mementos that constituted his worldly possessions. He removed his headband carefully, placing it on the bedside table where moonlight caught the engraved leaf symbol. Beside it, he laid the envelope containing his parents' wedding photo, fingers lingering on the worn paper. I pass, Mom, he whispered to the silence. Just like I promised. His eyes drifted to the window, where the distant Hokage monument was just visible in the moonlight, stone faces watching eternally over the sleeping village. Chunin next, he murmured, the promise to the Hokage, and to himself, settling into his bones like an oath. Then I'll know everything. Sleep claimed him gradually, dreams of swirling seals and golden chains intertwining with visions of a red-haired woman and a blond man standing proud as he accepted the Hokage's hat. Beyond his window, unseen in the shadows between buildings, a silver-haired figure watched the Uzumaki compound with calculating eyes, plans adjusting to accommodate unexpected complications. Inside the barrier's protection, Naruto slept the deep, restful sleep of one who had found, at long last, his place in the world. Chapter 7 Trials of Trust. Moonlight sliced through Naruto's bedroom window, painting silver rectangles across the floor when his eyes snapped open. The distant chime of the village clock tower announced 3 a.m, but something else had yanked him from sleep, a disturbance in the barrier seals surrounding the Uzumaki compound. The faint vibration hummed through his chakra pathways like a plucked string. He bolted upright, senses suddenly razor-sharp. Outside his window, shadows shifted in ways that had nothing to do with the breeze. The hair on his arms stood on end as he slipped from bed, moving with uncharacteristic silence to peer through the glass. A figure darted across the neighboring rooftop, silver hair gleaming momentarily in the moonlight. Mizuki. The academy instructor paused at the compound's edge, hands forming unfamiliar signs as he studied the barrier seals with calculating eyes. Naruto watched, breath fogging the glass, as Mizuki produced a small scroll and began transcribing patterns with swift, practiced movements. "What are you up to?" Naruto whispered, the words barely disturbing the air in his room. The floor creaked behind him. Naruto whirled, kunai materializing in his hand from pure reflex, only to find Takeo standing in the doorway, eyes alert despite the early hour. "You feel it too?" his cousin observed quietly, crossing to the window. "The barrier disturbance." "It's Mizuki," Naruto hissed, pointing to where the Chunin now crouched, examining the compound's primary seal array. "Why is he prowling around at night?" "Nothing honorable." Takeo's voice hardened as he studied the silver-haired figure. "Wait here. I'll wake the others." "But..." "Wait. Here." The command brooked no argument, Takeo's usually jovial face set with sudden authority that reminded Naruto forcefully of Kazashi. Left alone, Naruto fidgeted impatiently, gaze locked on Mizuki's furtive movements. The instructor had abandoned his examination of the barriers and was now moving away, heading in the direction of the Hokage Tower with purposeful speed. "He's leaving," Naruto reported when Takeo returned with Akane and Kazashi in tow, all three dressed in traditional Uzumaki battle garb, deep crimson with spiral patterns that seemed to shift subtly in the dim light. "Toward the administrative district," Kazashi noted, studying Mizuki's retreating form with narrowed eyes. "Suspicious timing, immediately following graduation." "You think it's connected to that special test he mentioned?" Naruto asked, already pulling on his jacket, newly acquired headband clutched in his fist. "Almost certainly," Akane confirmed, her hands moving through a series of quick signs that activated a tracking seal on the compound's perimeter. A ghostly trail of chakra illuminated briefly, marking Mizuki's path through the village. "Though whether the deception was aimed specifically at you or any student desperate enough to believe him remains unclear. We should follow him," Naruto insisted, hopping on one foot as he struggled into his sandals. "Catch him red-handed." "No," Kazashi's voice cut like a blade through Naruto's enthusiasm. "We will inform the Hokage. This is a village security matter. But by the time we wake up the old man, Mizuki could..." Naruto's protest died as the distant sound of breaking glass echoed through the night, followed by the urgent wail of alarm seals activating in the administrative sector. Kazashi's weathered face hardened into granite. "Too late." "The scroll of sealing," Akane breathed, her normally warm eyes gone cold with understanding. "That's what he's after." "The what?" Naruto asked, confusion momentarily overriding his eagerness for action. "A repository of forbidden techniques," Takeo explained tersely, already moving toward the compound entrance. "Dangerous jutsu classified above S rank, including the original Nine-Tails sealing formula." Ice flooded Naruto's veins at the implications. He wanted me to steal it for him, he realized, fury building like a physical pressure behind his breastbone. That's what his special test was about. Kazashi was already out the door, hands flashing through signs that strengthened the compound's protective barriers. "Akane, alert the Hokage. Takeo, activate the contingency seals." "What about me?" Naruto demanded, scrambling after them, headband now tied securely across his forehead despite his pajama bottoms and rumpled t-shirt. 3 pairs of Uzumaki eyes turned toward him, measuring and evaluating. "You graduated yesterday," Kazashi reminded him sternly. "This is not an academy exercise." "But it's about me," Naruto protested, righteous anger sharpening his voice. "He tried to use me. And if he's after the Nine-Tails seal..." The unspoken implication hung in the air between them, a threat not just to village security but to Naruto himself. A silent conversation passed between the adult Uzumaki, complex emotions flowing across their faces too quickly for Naruto to interpret. Fine. Kazashi relented finally, voice clipped with reluctant approval. But you stay behind us, follow instructions precisely, and engage only if directly threatened. Understood? Yes. Naruto pumped his fist in the air, already vibrating with restrained energy. This is not a game, Akane cautioned, her hand on his shoulder grounding him momentarily. Mizuki is a trained chunin with years of combat experience. And we are Uzumaki, Takeo added, a dangerous smile playing across his lips as he activated a series of seals embedded in his forearm guards. He's about to learn what that means. The village transformed at night, familiar streets rendered alien in the stark moonlight and lengthening shadows. Naruto bounded across rooftops in formation with his clan, their movements synchronized with the unnervingly smooth efficiency of a family trained to fight together. Ahead, chaos erupted around the Hokage Tower. ANBU's shadows flickered between buildings, alarm seals pulsed with angry red light, and shouts echoed as squad leaders organized search patterns. There, Kazashi murmured, pointing toward the forest bordering Konoha's eastern edge. A flicker of movement, barely visible, betrayed Mizuki's escape route, a large scroll strapped to his back. He's heading for the border, Takeo observed, voice tight with concentration as he maintained a sensory seal that tracked Mizuki's chakra signature. Planning to rendezvous with someone? Or merely seeking cover to examine his prize before extraction? Kazashi countered. Regardless, we intercept immediately. They changed course, banking sharply toward the forest's perimeter. Naruto struggled to match their pace, his recent training insufficient to fully compensate for years of inadequate instruction. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he pushed chakra into his legs, determined not to fall behind. Naruto! Akane called, noticing his strain. Use shadow clones as we discussed, distribute your chakra load. The suggestion clicked into place like a key turning in a lock. Naruto's hands flashed through the now familiar sign, and 3 shadow clones materialized beside him, each taking a portion of his massive chakra reserves. Immediately, his movements lightened, speed increasing as the clones synchronized with his original body. Nice! Takeo approved, genuine pride warming his voice despite the tension of pursuit. They reached the forest's edge, plunging into darkness broken only by dappled moonlight filtering through the canopy. The sounds of the village faded behind them, replaced by the whisper of leaves and their own controlled breathing. Kazashi raised a closed fist, the signal to halt. They froze instantly, for Naruto's and 3 Uzumaki balanced on tree branches in perfect stillness. From ahead came the rustle of movement, and the soft thud of a heavy object being set down. Through gaps in the foliage, they glimpsed Mizuki in a small clearing, unrolling the massive scroll with trembling hands, his face transformed by naked greed. Just as I thought, Akane whispered, her breath warm against Naruto's ear. He's stopping to examine the contents rather than delivering directly. Amateur, Takeo muttered with professional disdain. Prioritizing personal gain over mission completion. Fortunate for us, Kazashi replied, already forming seal patterns that shimmered briefly in the darkness. Containment formation. Takeo, north quadrant. Akane east. I'll take west. Naruto, his stern gaze fixed on the boy and his clones. Observation position only. South perimeter, maximum distance. Naruto opened his mouth to protest but swallowed it at Kazashi's unyielding expression. Fine, he muttered, directing his clones to spread out along the clearing's southern edge. The Uzumaki moved like ghosts, circling the clearing without disturbing so much as a leaf. Naruto watched in fascination as they placed small tags at precise intervals, each marked with sealing patterns that pulsed faintly when activated. Barrier complete! Kazashi's voice whispered through a communication seal near Naruto's position. Prepare for confrontation. In the clearing, Mizuki hunched over the forbidden scroll, muttering to himself as his finger traced lines of text. Yes, the chakra consumption is high, but the effects, with this, even Orochimaru-sama will have to acknowledge my worth. Orochimaru? Akane's shocked whisper carried through the seal. This is worse than we thought. Before anyone could respond, a new voice cut through the night, familiar, concerned, and utterly unexpected. Mizuki! What are you doing? Irika Yumino landed in the clearing, chest heaving from exertion, eyes wide with disbelief as he took in the scene before him. Irika! Mizuki's face twisted through surprise into something calculating. How did you find me so quickly? I know your patrol routes, Irika replied, hands carefully visible at his sides as he edged closer. When the alarm sounded and you weren't at the response point. Mizuki, what have you done? The Hokage has ordered full village lockdown. Complication. Kazashi's grim assessment vibrated through the communication seal. Hold positions. Protective priority shifts to the academy instructor. In the clearing, Mizuki's posture changed, casual confidence morphing into coiled readiness. Always the dutiful soldier, Irika. He sneered, rolling the scroll with deliberate slowness. Never questioning orders, never looking beneath the surface. The perfect Konoha tool. Return the scroll, Irika demanded, voice level despite the tension radiating from his stance. Whatever you're involved in, it's not too late to fix this. Mizuki laughed, a harsh, ugly sound that echoed through the clearing. Fix this? Why would I want to fix the first sensible decision I've made in years? Do you have any idea what's in this scroll? Power, Irika. Real power, not the scraps the Hokage throws to loyal dogs. You're betraying the village. Irika's voice cracked with genuine pain. Betraying your students, your colleagues. Spare me, Mizuki snapped, securing the scroll to his back once more. This village has been rotting from the inside for years. The old man grows senile while real power slips through his fingers. Orochimaru-sama understands what true strength requires. Across the clearing, concealed in shadow, the three Uzumaki exchanged grave looks. The name of one of Konoha's most notorious traitors confirmed their worst suspicions. Escalate to full containment, Kazashi ordered through the seal. On my mark. 3, 2. Before he could finish, Mizuki's hand flashed to his equipment pouch, producing a specialized kunai that glinted with unnatural blue light. I didn't want to kill you, Irika. He sighed, spinning the weapon with casual menace. But you always were too virtuous for your own good. And you were always too obvious with your thrown weapons, Irika countered, dropping into a defensive stance. Your students could predict your trajectories by their second year. Fury flashed across Mizuki's face. My students? You mean the failures and weaklings? The dead last demons I was forced to coddle? He spat on the ground, disgust twisting his features. Speaking of which, where is your precious Naruto? I had such plans for him tonight, the perfect patsy for this operation. From his observation point, Naruto stiffened, anger surging through him at the casual contempt in Mizuki's voice. Leave Naruto out of this, Irika growled, a protective edge hardening his usually gentle voice. Why? Mizuki laughed again, the sound razored with malice. Still playing parent to the demon brat? How noble, considering what it did to your real family. Irika blanched, momentarily frozen as old pain washed across his scarred face. Oh yes, Mizuki pressed his advantage, circling predatorily. He doesn't know, does he? None of the children do. Sweet little Naruto has no idea that the monster sealed inside him is the same one that rampaged through Konoha 12 years ago. The same fox demon that murdered your parents, Irika. The same beast that left hundreds dead and our village in ruins. The words struck like physical blows. In his hiding place, Naruto's breath caught, not from the revelation itself. His Uzumaki family had already explained his status as a Jinchuriki, but from the naked hatred in Mizuki's voice. That's why everyone hates him. Mizuki continued, venom dripping from every syllable. Why they avoid him, whisper when he passes. He's not a boy, Irika, he's a ticking time bomb. A monster wearing human skin. And now he's got those red-haired interlopers filling his head with notions of clan heritage and special powers. His lips curled in a sneer. As if bloodlines matter when you're nothing but a vessel for a demon. Enough! Iruka shouted, genuine anger breaking through his composed facade. Naruto is not the Nine-Tails. He's a boy who suffered more than anyone should, who keeps fighting despite everything this village has done to him. He's a better shinobi, a better person, than you could ever hope to be. The simple, fierce defense lanced through Naruto's chest, tears pricking his eyes at the raw conviction in his teacher's voice. How touching, Mizuki drawled, spinning his kunai faster. Your eulogy can mention your devotion to a monster. I'm sure your parents would be so proud. His arm whipped forward, the specialized kunai leaving a trail of chakra-infused light as it sliced toward Iruka's throat. Now! Kazashi's command cracked through the communication seal. 3 things happened simultaneously. Iruka twisted to dodge the incoming blade, a barrier seal flashed to life around the clearing's perimeter, and 3 Uzumaki landed in triangular formation around Mizuki, hands already moving through complex sealing patterns. What the? Mizuki's shock dissolved into fury as he recognized the red-haired figures surrounding him. The Uzumaki interlopers. How convenient! Now I can eliminate all of Konoha's loose ends at once. You misunderstand the situation, Kazashi stated, voice cold as winter frost. His hands completed their sequence, and golden light erupted from the ground at Mizuki's feet, forming a complex circular seal pattern that raced up his body in glowing chains. Binding seal, first position, Kazashi intoned, as Mizuki struggled against the constricting light. You think this can hold me? Mizuki snarled, his body contorting as he fought the restraints. With a surge of chakra that left him gasping, he shattered the binding, fragments of golden light dispersing into the night air. I've studied sealing techniques for years. Studied, perhaps, Akane acknowledged, her own hands completing a different sequence. But never truly understood. The earth beneath Mizuki rippled, seal patterns emerging in concentric circles that pulsed with building energy. He leapt upward to escape, only to find Takeo waiting above, hands splayed toward him. Uzumaki sealing art, chakra disruption net, Takeo declared, as a web of fine blue light materialized between his outstretched fingers, expanding to engulf Mizuki in mid-jump. The Chunin howled as the net made contact, his chakra pathways suddenly visible through his skin like rivers of disrupted light. He crashed back to earth, movements jerky and uncoordinated as the disruption technique scrambled his motor control. You can't! He gasped, struggling to form hand signs with fingers that no longer responded properly. We can, Kazashi corrected him dispassionately. And we have. From his observation point, Naruto watched in awe as his clan worked in seamless coordination, each technique building upon the others in an intricate dance of sealing mastery. This wasn't just combat, it was art, generations of knowledge flowing through 3 pairs of hands with devastating precision. Naruto! Iruka's shocked voice pulled his attention back to the clearing. His teacher stood frozen, staring at the Uzumaki containment operation with wide eyes. Where are you? I know you're out there. I can sense your chakra. Busted. Naruto signaled his clones to maintain position, then stepped from his hiding place into the clearing's edge, sheepish grin not quite masking the complex emotions churning beneath. Hey, Iruka-sensei, he called, scratching the back of his head awkwardly. Funny running into you here. Naruto! Relief and exasperation warred across Iruka's scarred face. What are you? How did you? His eyes darted between Naruto and the Uzumaki still containing a struggling Mizuki. Did you know about this? Kind of. Naruto hedged, edging closer. We spotted Mizuki creeping around our compound tonight. Looked suspicious, so we followed him. We? Iruka's eyebrows shot up. You're working with them now? Since when do you follow rules about proper mission protocol? Since I found out what happens when you actually have people teaching you properly. Naruto shot back, unexpected hurt flaring at the accusation in Iruka's tone. Iruka flinched, the rebuke landing with precision. Before he could respond, Mizuki found his voice again, spite overcoming the disruption technique's effects. There he is! He crowed, eyes fixing on Naruto with venomous hatred. The demon brat himself. Did you hear what I said, monster? Do you understand now why everyone despises you? Why no one will ever truly accept you? Silence, Kazashi commanded, tightening the binding seals with a sharp gesture that made Mizuki gasp in pain. But the damage was done. Naruto stood rigid, face carefully blank as he absorbed Mizuki's vitriol. Not because the revelation about the Nine Tails shocked him, that secret had been explained with care and context by his clan, but because the raw hatred cut deep despite his best efforts to armor himself against it. Naruto! Iruka started toward him, concern evident in every line of his body. Don't listen to him. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Actually, Naruto's voice emerged steadier than he felt. I already knew. Shock rippled across Iruka's face. You knew? About the Nine Tails? My family told me. Naruto nodded toward the Uzumaki, pride straightening his spine despite the lingering sting of Mizuki's words. They explained everything, about Mom being the previous Jinchuriki, about the attack, about the ceiling. They didn't hide anything from me. The simple statement hung in the air, heavy with unspoken accusation toward all the adults who had kept him in ignorance for 12 years. I see, Iruka managed, processing this revelation with visible effort. The truth was his birthright. Akane spoke without looking away from her containment duties. As is the knowledge of how to properly manage his burden. The Uzumaki have been Jinchuriki for generations. Which is precisely why Mizuki's plot is particularly concerning, Kazashi added, his severe gaze fixed on their captive. The scroll of sealing contains the original Nine Tails containment formula. In the wrong hands, particularly those of Orochimaru, such knowledge could be catastrophic. Mizuki laughed, the sound edged with growing desperation as the seals tightened around him. You're too late. My contact already has copies of the essential formulas. I transmitted the key sequences before you ever arrived. Alarm flashed across the Uzumaki faces. Kazashi's hands flashed through a series of rapid signs, activating a sensory technique that spread across the clearing like an invisible wave. He's lying, the elder declared after a tense moment. No transmission seals have been activated within this area tonight. He intended to escape with the physical scroll. Relief mingled with suspicion on Takeo's face. Unless he has an accomplice waiting nearby. Sweep the perimeter, Kazashi ordered. 500-meter radius. Akane, maintain primary containment. What about us? Naruto asked, stepping closer despite Iruka's restraining hand on his shoulder. Kazashi evaluated him with a measuring gaze. You and your academy instructor will remain with Akane. Defense formation, outside the primary containment seal. I can help search, Naruto insisted, hands already forming the shadow clone sign. With enough clones, we could cover the whole forest. An untrained sensor flooding the area with identical chakra signatures would only create confusion. Kazashi countered, though his tone held a hint of approval at Naruto's initiative. Your responsibility is the scroll and the prisoner. Guard them well. Without waiting for further argument, Kazashi and Takeo vanished into the surrounding forest, moving with the silent efficiency of experienced shinobi. Left in the sudden quiet of the clearing, Naruto found himself facing a still-stunned Iruka and a venomously glaring Mizuki, with only Akane's graceful but lethal presence as buffer. So, he broke the awkward silence, rocking back on his heels. Good thing we followed Mizuki, huh? Iruka's laugh emerged strangled and slightly hysterical. Only you, Naruto, he managed, shaking his head in bewildered affection. Only you would treat an S-rank village security breach like an unexpected training exercise. Hey, I'm taking it seriously, Naruto protested, though a grin tugged at the corner of his mouth. I'm guarding the prisoner, aren't I? You're a joke, Mizuki spat from within his seal bindings. A pathetic child playing at being a ninja. Even with your precious clan holding your hand, you'll never be anything but the demon everyone knows you are. Naruto's grin faltered, the barb finding its mark despite his best efforts. Beside him, Iruka stiffened, protective anger radiating from him in nearly visible waves. That's enough, Mizuki, he snapped, stepping between his former colleague and his student. Why defend him? Mizuki pressed, desperation making him reckless. You of all people should hate him, Irika. The Nine Tails took everything from you. Irika's shoulders squared, his voice dropping to a register Naruto had never heard before, quiet but vibrating with absolute conviction. I did hate him, he admitted, the words falling into the clearing like stones into still water. When I first saw him, all I could see was the fox. I was ashamed of those feelings, but they were there. Naruto's breath caught, pain lancing through his chest at the unexpected confession. But that changed, Irika continued, turning to face Naruto directly, eyes bright with emotion. Because I saw him, really saw him. Not the fox, not the container, but Naruto Uzumaki. A boy so desperate for acknowledgement he'd paint the entire Hokage monument just to be seen. A student who failed but never quit trying. A child who grew up with nothing and no one, yet somehow remained kind despite it all. Tears welled in Naruto's eyes, the simple truth in Irika's voice more powerful than any grand declaration could have been. The Nine Tails is sealed inside Naruto, Irika continued, voice strengthening with each word. But they are not the same. Anyone with eyes and a heart can see that. How touching! Mizuki sneered, though desperation edged his mockery as the binding seals pulsed tighter around him. Convince yourself if you must, but the village will never accept him. They know what he really is. Actually, Akane interjected, her melodic voice undercut with steel as she maintained the containment patterns. What you describe is precisely why the Uzumaki were traditionally chosen as Jinchuriki. Our chakra naturally harmonizes with and contains tailed beasts without corruption. In the hands of a properly trained Uzumaki, such power becomes an asset rather than a threat. You're saying? Irika turned toward her, academic interest momentarily overriding the emotional intensity of the moment. I'm saying, Akane clarified, her eyes never leaving Mizuki, that with proper instruction, Naruto can learn to access the Nine Tails chakra safely, perhaps eventually even cooperate with the entity itself. Such partnerships were not unheard of among the strongest Uzumaki Jinchuriki in our history. Naruto's eyes widened at this new information. You never mentioned that part. I could actually work with the fox? In time, Akane cautioned, though her lips curved in a small smile at his enthusiasm. With years of dedicated training and proper seal modifications. That's amazing! Naruto's entire face lit with the possibilities spinning through his mind. Imagine what we could! His excitement shattered as Mizuki suddenly convulsed within the binding seals, body contorting at impossible angles. Foam bubbled from his lips as his eyes rolled back, showing only whites. Poison capsule, Akane identified instantly, hands flashing through emergency medical seals. Hidden in a tooth or under the tongue. Typical of Orochimaru's agents. Can you neutralize it? Irika demanded, already moving to assist. Attempting to, Akane replied, her focus absolute as golden chakra surrounded her hands, sinking into Mizuki's thrashing form. But these are specialized compounds, designed to leave no witnesses, no matter the extraction techniques used. Mizuki's body arched one final time, an inhuman sound tearing from his throat, then collapsed boneless within the binding seals. His eyes stared sightlessly at the canopy above, a rictus grin frozen on his face. He's gone, Akane confirmed grimly after a final diagnostic seal. Self-elimination to avoid interrogation, a common protocol among deep-cover operatives. Silence fell over the clearing, broken only by the soft rustle of leaves in the night breeze. Naruto stared at Mizuki's body, the reality of shinobi life hitting him with sudden, brutal clarity. This wasn't an academy exercise or training session. This was death, swift and irrevocable, leaving nothing but questions in its wake. Naruto! Irika's gentle voice broke through his shocked paralysis. Are you all right? Yeah, he managed, though his voice emerged smaller than intended. Just didn't expect that. No one did. Akane rose gracefully, maintaining the containment seals even though their subject no longer posed a threat. The Hokage's ANBU will want to examine the body for additional intelligence. The poison itself may provide clues about Orochimaru's current operations. As if summoned by her words, shadows detached from the surrounding forest, masked ANBU materializing like ghosts at the clearing's edge. Behind them came Kazashi and Takeo, accompanied by a grim-faced Hiruzen Sarutobi, pipe absent for once as he surveyed the scene with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Perimeter is secure, an ANBU captain reported, mask stylized in a cat's likeness. No signs of additional infiltrators within 1 kilometer. The scroll? Hiruzen demanded, gaze falling on the forbidden artifact still strapped to Mizuki's back. Intact, Akane confirmed. No evidence that he managed to copy or transmit its contents before we contained him. And Mizuki himself? Self-administered poison, Akane reported clinically. Activated when capture became inevitable. Consistent with Orochimaru's known protocols for deep cover agents. Hiruzen's weathered face darkened at the confirmation of his former student's involvement. I see. Release the containment seals, please. My ANBU will take custody of the body and the scroll. Akane complied, the glowing patterns fading as she withdrew her chakra from the elaborate construct. ANBU moved instantly, securing the scroll and preparing Mizuki's body for transport. Naruto. The Hokage turned his attention to the boy standing awkwardly between his teacher and his clan. You should not be here. With respect, Lord Hokage. Kazashi interjected before Naruto could respond. His presence proved valuable. It was his observation that first alerted us to Mizuki's suspicious activity around our compound. Hiruzen's eyebrows rose fractionally. Is that so? Yeah. Naruto found his voice, straightening under the Hokage's scrutiny. Mizuki-sensei was acting weird at graduation, talking about some special test I could take if I failed. Then tonight I saw him studying our barrier seals. It seemed suspicious, so... He shrugged, trying to downplay his role despite the pride swelling in his chest at Kazashi's acknowledgement. Hiruzen studied him thoughtfully, aged eyes sharp beneath bushy brows. Quick observation, appropriate reporting to authority figures, measured response within team parameters. A small smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. Perhaps there's hope for you as a shinobi after all, Naruto. Believe it! Naruto grinned, momentarily forgetting the grim scene around them in the glow of the Hokage's approval. Though, technically, Iruka pointed out with the precision of a lifetime educator, Naruto hasn't officially graduated yet. His exam results were inconclusive. The statement landed like a stone in still water, ripples of confusion spreading across the clearing. What do you mean? Naruto demanded, panic rising in his throat. I passed. You gave me the headband yourself. About that, Iruka winced, genuine regret in his expression. After reviewing your clone technique with Mizuki, before I knew he was compromised, it was determined that your method didn't strictly satisfy the core requirements. The use of shadow clones to facilitate the basic clone jutsu was innovative, but technically outside examination parameters. Naruto's world tilted sideways, the headband suddenly heavy against his forehead. So, I failed? Again? The examination committee was divided, Iruka admitted. I advocated for your pass based on demonstrated skill beyond the basic requirements, but was overruled pending further review. Which, given recent developments, seems rather moot, Hiruzen observed dryly, gaze traveling meaningfully to Mizuki's body being prepared for transport. With half the examination committee revealed as a traitor, Takeo added, not bothering to hide his satisfaction. Previous decisions should be reconsidered. A tense silence settled over the clearing as Naruto struggled to process this roller coaster of emotion, the triumph of graduation, the revelation of Mizuki's betrayal, the shock of witnessing death, and now the potential reversal of his hard-won achievement. Lord Hokage. Iruka spoke into the silence, formal and deliberate. As senior examination officer, I request field authority to evaluate genin candidacy based on demonstrated combat performance. Hiruzen's eyebrows rose higher, though a gleam of understanding flickered in his eyes. Such authority is typically reserved for wartime promotions, Irika. True, Irika acknowledged. But given the unusual circumstances and security implications, standard protocols seem insufficient. He gestured toward Naruto. The candidate demonstrated advanced chakra techniques, appropriate tactical response to village security threats, and teamwork integration with specialized units. By any practical measure, these skills exceed academy graduation requirements. Hope bloomed in Naruto's chest as he realized what Irika was doing, creating an alternative path to graduation that couldn't be undermined by bureaucratic technicalities. Hiruzen studied them both for a long moment, Pite finally emerging from his robes though he made no move to light it. A compelling argument, he conceded finally. Very well, Examiner Yumino. Your field assessment is approved. Thank you, Lord Hokage. Irika bowed formally, then turned to Naruto with sudden solemnity. Naruto Uzumaki, based on skills demonstrated in field conditions, including advanced chakra techniques, appropriate response to security threats, and successful integration with tactical units, I hereby affirm your graduation from Konoha Ninja Academy with the rank of Genin. The words rang through the clearing with ceremonial weight, somehow more meaningful than the classroom confirmation had been. Naruto stood frozen, afraid to move lest this moment shatter like a dream upon waking. However, Irika continued, reaching up to untie his own headband. I believe a proper presentation is in order. With deliberate movements, he removed Naruto's hastily donned headband, then replaced it with his own, worn from years of service, scratched in places, but imbued with the weight of genuine achievement and personal connection. This was my first headband, Irika explained softly as he secured it across Naruto's forehead. I'd be honored if you would wear it as you begin your own journey as a Konoha shinobi. The gesture struck Naruto speechless, emotions too complex for words swelling in his chest. Behind Irika, his Uzumaki family watched with expressions ranging from Takeo's open delight to Kazashi's subtle approval, while Anbu and the Hokage stood witness to this impromptu ceremony in the midnight forest. Naruto swallowed hard, fingertips tracing the worn metal plate, feeling the history etched into its surface. Thank you, Irika-sensei. I'll make you proud. Believe it. You already have. Irika replied simply, stepping back with suspiciously bright eyes. The moment stretched, fragile and perfect, until Hiruzen cleared his throat. Touching as this is, we have security protocols to complete. Irika, I'll need your full report on Mizuki's behavior leading up to tonight's events. Uzumaki representatives, your observations on the infiltration attempt against your compound barriers. Naruto. Yes, old man? Naruto straightened instinctively under the Hokage's gaze. A smile cracked through Hiruzen's official demeanor. Get some sleep. Team assignments are tomorrow, and I suspect you'll want to be at your best. Team assignments, Naruto repeated, the reality of his new status finally sinking in. I'm really a genin now. Indeed, Hiruzen confirmed. Though perhaps not quite in the way any of us anticipated. As the ANBU completed their evidence collection and prepared to transport Mizuki's body back to Konoha for examination, Naruto found himself standing between two worlds, Irika on one side representing his past and the village that had shaped him, his Uzumaki family on the other embodying his newly discovered heritage and future potential. Not separate paths, he realized with growing certainty, but intertwined destinies. Konoha shinobi and Uzumaki heir. Student and family member. Jinchuriki and seal master in training. The weight of Irika's headband settled against his forehead, familiar yet entirely new, like everything in his rapidly transforming life. Let's go home, Akane suggested gently, her hand warm on his shoulder. Tomorrow brings new beginnings. As they made their way back toward the village, Naruto glanced back once at the clearing where everything had changed. Mizuki's betrayal, the Nine-Tails revelation that wasn't really a revelation, Irika's unwavering faith, his clan's seamless protection, all pieces forming a picture of what lay ahead. My ninja way, he whispered to the night, a promise to himself and the future, is to protect them all. Above, stars wheeled in the pre-dawn sky, witnesses to oaths spoken and unspoken as Naruto Uzumaki, genin of Konoha, heir of Yuzushiogakure, and Jinchuriki of the Nine-Tailed Fox, stepped forward into his destiny at last.